and a 28-1 application has already been submitted.
Parliament has rejected allegations by the National Coloured Congress leader and Member of Parliament Fadil Adams that his parliamentary-issued laptop was malfunctioning. Adams, who was scheduled to start testifying from yesterday, told the Commission he missed crucial information due to technical challenges with his laptop that has persisted for about 18 months. He said it resulted in late submissions of his statement. However, Parliament says its records do not support those claims. Parliamentary spokesperson Moloto Mutapo says there is no evidence that hardware failures or system freezing incidents were logged.
Following these remarks, Parliament checked its ICT service desk records for technical support provided to Mr. Adams during the period concerned. The records do not show a persistent problem with his laptop, repeated hardware failures or freezing, or the device being repeatedly booked in for repairs.
The National Union of Mine Workers General Secretary Mpho Pakedi says the restructuring of Eskom will trigger massive job losses. Pakedi says historical global and local trends prove that such changes always cut jobs to maximize profit. This follows President Cyril Ramaphosa's approval of the Eskom Restructuring Task Team Phase 1 report. It proposes establishing an independent transmission system operator to boost competition and investment. Pakedi was speaking at a media briefing in Johannesburg.
Once you begin to bring or begin to engage on restructuring, it is always coming with a reduction of the workforce. Once you privatize, it will come with a reduction of the workforce, purely because the private sector's interest is on increasing and maximizing profit. So they will not work with the number of workers that are employed by Eskom. It is given.
And finally, the number of people killed by Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo has surpassed 2,000 in what health officials describe as the fastest spreading outbreak in the country's history. The virus has spread across 5 provinces in eastern Congo since the outbreak was declared in May. The BBC's Thomas Mukwana reports.
The confirmation makes it the second most deadly Ebola outbreak in the country's history, behind the 2018-2020 outbreak, which killed 2,300 people. Over 4,300 infections have been confirmed since the outbreak was declared in May, although it is now thought to have started months before it was detected. Vaccine experts from the World Health Organization have recommended a full-scale human trial of the only existing approved Ebola vaccine to see if it offers any protection against the Bundibugyo strain of the virus.
Recapping the top story, Northwest Police say are continuing following a cave-in that claimed the lives of 14 illegal miners at a disused dumping site in Kaneng informal settlement near Rustenburg. For SAfm News, I am Ann Musa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic. Morning, very heavy rain across the Durban area. A lot of rain yesterday, overnight last night it got a bit extreme, and it's absolutely bucketing down in parts this morning. So just take it nice and easy, give yourself time to get through the conditions safely. Everything will be on a go slow. There is some flooding, probably quite a bit of flooding around, but of main concern, the M4 Southern Freeway inbound Kongela Dal Bridge area, the right lane, the taxi lane, resembling a river this morning. So you'll be down that lane on your way to Durban, and that'll probably just put a bit of a squeeze on. Joburg side, a crash on the N3 South coming from Edenvale, ramping to the N12 and R24 East at Galulis. Still some overnight roadworks between Allendale and Buccleuch, although it looks like they've probably been shifted to the shoulder lane. Seems to be getting through there okay. Pretoria section of the N1, quick check on the roadwork section there around Montana through Stormful. That all looks okay this morning. And Cape Town, no traffic lights. Again, it's a problem junction, M7, R300. Both of those routes leaving Mitchell's Plain queuing quite heavily. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
It's a very good morning to you in your SAfm sports headlines. It is mixed fortunes for the PSL's new coaches as the season kicked off with some memorable wins and losses. And in rugby, the Sharks completely dominated by a powerful All Black side. We'll have the details at around 6:30.
Every generation has a story.
Every generation has questions. Every generation has a voice. For 90 years, SAfm has been part of the conversation. This August, we listen back to the voices that brought us here. We celebrate the people who shaped our journey, and we listen for the voices that will shape what comes next, including the launch of a new annual SAfm property. This Women's Month, we are in search of an SAfm woman. 4 extraordinary women, 4 extraordinary journeys. One question: what does it mean to be an SAfm woman? SAfm 90 years. Women, a new voice. 90 years of conversation. A nation story. Our shared future. From 1 August, SAfm. The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. The National Briefing on SAfm. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
It is 9 minutes past 6. A very special good morning to you. This is a special national briefing broadcast. The name is Koketso Sachane, broadcasting live from the SABC Radio Park Auditorium. There's like an audience happening here. I'm standing in for Kathy Motlatlana, at least for today and tomorrow. There's quite a bit that we have on the table this morning, and what I'm looking forward to, and I sure hope that you are looking forward to, the person that will be my co-host for this morning, a legend of SAfm, as we continue to celebrate 90 years of SAfm, 90 years of the SABC. I'll be joined come 7 o'clock by the legendary Ndade John Perlman. He'll be with us between 7 and 9 a.m. In the meantime, of course, quite a bit that we have on the table for you in the next few minutes. We look at what has been a talker from yesterday into this morning. What is happening with Fadil Adams? What happened at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry? We also look at the front pages of the newspapers, and then together with Dr. Garth Brayworth, we look at the global brief, the latest around what happened in Colombia. We'll look at that situation as well as what is happening in Australia. And before we wrap the hour, Africa in Focus with Advocate Sipho Mantula. That is what we will be doing between now and 7 a.m. And I'd like to maybe put this on the table. I'd like to ask you if at all you've been following the Fadil Adams matter. Those of us who follow the Madlanga Commission left disappointed yesterday when the Commission could not proceed with that testimony of Fadil Adams, the leader of the National Coloured Congress. You would remember that Adams's version of events is key to the inquiry, as he's the one who, having laid those charges, we saw the arrest of Kumalo, Mukwele and others, and after weeks, if not months, of promising to be ready to tell all at the commission, when the moment came, he did not, at least yesterday. We'll come to that in a bit. It is the national briefing on SAfm.
Durban, the promenade is calling and the purple wave is taking over the East Coast. It's time to lace up for the Hollywood Bets Durban 10-kilometer road race on Sunday, 30 August. The race covers the beautiful tour of the city, combining urban streets, scenic coastal roads, and stunning beachfront stretches with views of the Indian Ocean. Catch all the action live on SABC2 and SABC Plus from 7 a.m. on Sunday, 30th of August. The Hollywood Bets Durban 10-kilometer road race, brought to you by SABC Sports.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. and we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
13 minutes past 6. If you've just joined us, it is the national briefing on SAfm. Koketso in for Kathy Motlatlana. A quick look at the newspapers for this morning. Looking at the business day, GNU gets blame as joblessness spirals. Beyond depressing, with unemployment rate among young people heading towards 50%. This is a major, major crisis. The front page of the Citizen newspaper, pay us back, says South Africa. Deporting illegal immigrants is expensive, business and not budgeted for. In fact, the recent fury after anti-illegal immigrant protests in South Africa, 292 million rand is the money that the Department of Home Affairs has apparently spent, and they're asking that money of Malawi, Nigeria and Ethiopia to pay back. That's the front pages of the Citizen newspaper. Sowetan says 300 million to send migrants home. Also speaking to that particular story, officials warning some of the 89,000 undocumented persons could attempt to return through illegal crossing. So both the Citizen and the Sowetan newspaper speaking to the amount of money that has been spent to deport migrants, and a reminder there, Home Affairs asking Malawi, Nigeria and Ethiopia to pay back the money. The front page of the Star newspaper also speaking to the job crisis, South Africa's job market in free fall, and would like to get your thoughts on this. It doesn't look like the situation when it comes to unemployment is changing at all, and the larger crisis, if you will, the rate of unemployment amongst young people slowly approaching 50%. This is more than a crisis. Your thoughts on this? 086 000 2032. You can also send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. It is a national briefing on SAfm, 15 minutes past 6.
The national briefing on SAfm, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
We take your calls, we look at your WhatsApp voice notes. There is a need for us to have a conversation about what happened with Fadil Adams, and we're hoping that we actually do have those moments as to what happened at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. A number of us who have been following the commission, who've also been following all that Fadil Adams has been saying, he has led us all to under the impression, or left us under the impression, that he's good to go. At some point, he was even daring the Madlanga Commission to say, call me, I'll be there. The moment arrived yesterday. And I do remember that it was on Sunday evening when we saw a statement from the commission saying there's a possibility that he might not testify because the commission only received his affidavit that same night, that is Sunday or Monday evening, when he was meant to be testifying on Tuesday. Then the moment arrived, and of course, if at all you're expecting a full day of testimony from Fadil Adams, the evidence leader Chaskelson making it very clear that they are not able to proceed because they only received his affidavit 12 hours before he was supposed to start at the commission, even though he had been given since October of last year to submit his affidavit. If you missed out on what happened, here's a snippet of the exchange between Adams and Commission Chair Justice Madlanga.
Parliament can confirm that I have a very problematic laptop, and my laptop is either in for repairs or frozen, and when I became aware of the emails, I really don't want to lie. I think
you would not have to lie, so you don't even need to.
No, Commissioner, at any rate, I was aware of the Roof 3 a few months ago. But
what's a few months ago?
I think 3 months ago, 4 months ago, when I became aware, but I had not noticed it in October.
From October last year, it's only about 3 months back that you became aware that you got a Rule 3 notice from this commission. I find that very hard to believe. You are not taking us as a commission seriously, and I would dare say you are not even taking the people that you are supposed to serve seriously. Starting from now going forward, you must take this commission seriously, Mr. Adams.
That was a moment there at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry yesterday morning, and you would expect that there wouldn't be more drama following that, but this is where it gets even more interesting. Soon after his statement before the commission about issues with his laptop, Parliament issued a statement refuting Adams's claim. Here is Parliament spokesperson Moloto Mothapo.
Parliament checked its ICT service desk records for technical support provided to Mr. Adams during the period concerned. The records do not show a persistent problem with his laptop, repeated hardware failures or freezing, or the device being repeatedly booked in for repairs. The ICT matters logged for Mr. Adams were largely routine access and account-related requests. This included a Windows password reset in January 2025, an ERP password reset in June 2025, assistance with logging into device in July 2025, a Wi-Fi update in January 2026, and the ERP e-disclosure request in June 2026. These matters were attended to and closed. These are routine ICT support matters and are different from laptop being dysfunctional or unavailable over a prolonged period.
At Koketso Sachane and at SAfm Radio on Twitter.
The words there from Parliament spokesperson Moloto Mothapo, where Parliament issuing a statement, and they didn't make a point of explaining why the need to issue the statement. Firstly, making it very clear that they are in no way commenting on any of the evidence that is supposed to be at least shared before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in relation to Fadil Adams. If anything, from Parliament's perspective, they would not want to, or suppose, leave it to all of us to assume that Parliament was not assisting members of Parliament when they have difficulties such as with their laptops. But it seems as if Fadil Adams has lied. Is there another way to understand this? Do you have a different interpretation of what has happened? Because if we take what Parliament has said, comparing it to what Fadil Adams said, it seems even before he went deep into his testimony before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, he has already lied. Your thoughts on this? 0614-104-107. A reminder, SAfm, SABC celebrating 90 years, and on the national briefing in the next hour, I'll be joined for the rest of the morning by Ndade John Perlman. It's 21 minutes past 6.
The National Briefing on SAfm, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
A quick look at your weather for this morning. Let's start off in Pretoria, in the capital city. Cloudy at times. 6 is your low. 14 is the maximum. In Johannesburg, cloudy with possible light morning showers and rain. 3 is your low. 11 is the maximum. Vereeniging, cloudy with possible light morning showers. Lows of 3 and a maximum of 12. In Mbombela, cloudy with isolated showers and rain. 9 your low. 16 the maximum. Polokwane, cloudy at times. Lows of 9 and 17 is the maximum. Mahikeng, partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and rain. Lows of 7. 15 is the maximum. Vryburg, cloudy at times and windy. Lows of 7. 16 is the maximum there. Bloemfontein, cloudy at times and windy. 4 is your low and 15 the maximum. Kimberley, partly cloudy and windy. 6 your low. 16 is the maximum. In Uppington, partly cloudy and windy. Similar conditions there. Lows of 8. 20 is the maximum. In Cape Town, fine. Lows of 12 and 22 is the maximum. George, partly cloudy. Light to moderate northeasterly wind, lows of 9 and 17 is the maximum. In the Eastern Cape, in Gqeberha, partly cloudy conditions, lows of 10, maximum of 19. Gompo City, lows of 11 and 19 is the maximum there. Cloudy with isolated showers and rain. Durban, cloudy with scattered showers and rain, lows of 14, maximum of 18. Richards Bay, cloudy with scattered showers and rain, lows of 13. 19 is the maximum. And Pietermaritzburg, cloudy with scattered showers and rain, lows of 7 and 11 is the maximum. That is your weather for this morning. Good morning, South Africa.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading vision enhancements, like Climate Eyes, which automatically adapts to changing light. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
The Global Briefing on SAfm.
104.2, 107 nationwide. If you've just joined us, it is the national briefing, Koketso, in for Kathy Mohlahlana this morning. The global briefing, joining us now on the line, Dr. Garth Brayworth, the senior lecturer at Soplaki University. Dr. Bennyworth, thank you very much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Koketso, and to the listeners, and thank you.
Much appreciate your time this morning. Let's begin in Colombia. I'm not too sure what happened. I remember not too long ago we dealt with that devastating earthquake in Venezuela, and it seems like Colombia has also been hit. A powerful 7.5 magnitude earthquake devastating parts of the west of the country there.
Yes, indeed. And one of the big problems here in terms of rescue efforts and so on is the disbursement of the earthquake itself. It's not as though it occurred in one center, let's say, or one urban center. It's actually a number of centers across different parts of the country. And that makes the sort of 72 hours, 4 days sort of rescue window period extremely difficult. Granted, the loss of life is a lot lower than Venezuela, but nevertheless, a tragedy in itself.
It definitely is. In the Middle East, we're seeing fresh attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea, Dr. Bennyworth.
Yeah, this is an ongoing saga. I mean, I know some people I speak to talk about suffering from Middle Eastern fatigue. And I was asked by a Canadian, a good portion, I think it was in January this year, or February, how long will the war last? And I said, we'll be talking about it in a couple of years' time still. So really what we're seeing here is Iran, through its proxies, in this case Yemen and the Houthis, playing regional politics in the sense of being an extraction around the Straits of Hormuz and 20% of the world's oil supply. So the alternative for countries such as Saudi Arabia and Emirates and others is to build pipelines to the Red Sea, which in some cases they have already prepared for. In other cases, they're seriously trying to speed that up and consider that too. Nevertheless, if in fact the oil is now going to come to the Red Sea and go through the Yemen-Eritrean coastline, on the west being Eritrea, on the east being Yemen, and there's Iranian proxies in there armed with drones and missiles and so forth, that just really becomes another choke point similar to the Straits of Hormuz. So this is a drama that's going to play out for some time yet. And it's playing out against the backdrop of so-called peace talks in the Middle East between America primarily and Iran, where if we look at that in itself over the last few months that's been going on, that really is a case of tap dancing. The Iranians buying time, and the Americans, of course, with an eye on their midterm elections. So yes, very much an unfolding drama, and one that's not exactly going to go away in a hurry very soon. One
area where it seems like there's some degree of tap dancing, Dr. Bennyworth, is what's happening in Australia, where the Prime Minister there, Albanese, who's facing some political pressure. What did he say? Why does he seem to be in trouble?
Well, again, it's a question of who said what and what do they really mean. I mean, the Albanese government, the Labour government, is extremely unpopular in Australia at the moment, and for a number of reasons. I mean, it's not just let's say gaffes made in a sort of so-called sense of humour. There's some serious economic and political concerns going on down under, and so one sees a sort of an attempt by, let's say, the Australian opposition to find any reason to lambaste their flailing prime minister with, given elections in the future, where it's likely that Labour may actually lose in certain portions of the country or entirely. And so this is really just yet another attempt. And who said what? I mean, if one actually looks at the original podcast, the interviewer in that podcast actually said quite a bit more than the Prime Minister himself. But, again, what is the seriousness of it? I mean, if we look, as we said, we started earlier with Colombia, a serious matter, yes, of course, in terms of their localized situation. In terms of the human death toll, more people were murdered in South Africa over the long weekend than have died in the earthquake in Colombia. So, in perspective, the Middle East, a major problem in terms of world economics and world political affairs, and gaffes and political gaffes from down under in Australia, really, I mean, is that really worth taking seriously? The Japanese Prime Minister certainly doesn't seem to, although elements within her party are obviously wanting to make political capital out of something which really is significant in itself, so to say.
I suppose Australians need to learn a lesson from Americans who are used to some gaffes coming out of the White House on an almost daily basis. That's one way to look at it. But Dr. Pennyworth, thank you very much for your time as always this morning.
Only a pleasure. All the best.
Thank you, Dr. Garth Pennyworth, the Senior Lecturer at Soblaki University. As we look at the global briefing, a reminder that before we wrap the hour, we are going to be connecting with Advocate Sipho Mantula on the Africa focus. And there's quite a bit to talk about: what's happening in the DRC, what's happening back home in the country, there's what's happening in Zambia as well, and also proposed BE procurement regulations. We discuss that with Dumsani Mpafa, a member of the National Office Bearers of the Black Business Council. That all happening between now and 7 a.m. If you've just tuned in, it is National Briefing on SAfm Koketso in for Kathy Motlatlana. It's 6:30, time for the latest news headlines with Ann Musa.
Good morning. Thanks, Koketso. In the headlines, Northwest Police say investigations are continuing following a cave-in that claimed the lives of 14 illegal miners at a disused dumping site in Nkaneng informal settlement near Rustenburg. The Matlanga Commission has heard that a Section 28(1) authorization application in the Medicare 24 investigation was prepared before a Section 27 referral had been made to IDAC. More than 10 senior police generals, including the National Police Commissioner Fani Masimula, are in court over the 360 million rand health services tender. And Zimbabwean authorities say 15 bodies have been recovered after a passenger ferry capsized on Lake Kariba. 77 people have been rescued, but 27 are still missing. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning, Gauteng traffic. Got a very familiar feel to it. Everything's sort of where it should be. I guess the exception, Eskia and Pasele coming off the Mighty Mopoli Highway to Pretoria, queuing down towards the Putco depot. And we've got that crash on the N3 ramp to the N12R24. If you're coming up the N3 north from Bedfordview, wanting to turn out towards the airport and Boksburg, traffic is a little bit slow there. Heavy rain across the Durban area. Take it nice and easy, please. 46 mils overnight. Absolutely bucketing down this morning. Roads wet, slippery with flooding here and there to watch for, particularly on the freeway going inbound. More protesting. In fact, I think we're in for a day of it today. R61 between Koffenwaber, Ngobo and Mthatha. So both sides of Ngobo there is protesting, and the MO is the same. The comedy of these trucks pull them across the road and then disappear with the keys to the ignition. So it takes a while to clear the obstruction, but it seems to be a day of protesting, and perhaps even intensifying after yesterday's protest action in that area. Maybe a good idea to avoid travel along that section of the R61 until the situation is resolved. It might mean tomorrow. Cape Town, the M7, Jake Scoville, R300, no traffic lights. That's slow go coming out of Mitchell's Plain, and a crash on the N2 inbound after airport approach exit. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai. Are you going to tell us about that scary experience by Sundowns?
Yes, very scary indeed. And Galaxy there, Koketso, nearly pulling off the upset of the week, nearly being the key word. So what can I tell you? Yeah, TS Galaxy gave them a proper fright. But nevertheless, the African champions, they came through. That Sundowns pushed all the way. And this is in their opening Betway Premiership campaign. They had a 3-2 victory over TS Galaxy in Mbombela. Galaxy twice fought back despite finishing with 10 men. But Sundowns held on for all 3 points. Elsewhere, Polokwane City and Stellenbosch shared 6 goals in a thrilling 3-all draw. Chippa United and Richards Bay played to a 1-all stalemate, while Marumagalans and Kruger United battled to a goalless draw. Elsewhere, Relebohile Mofokeng and Royal Union Saint-Gilloise have missed out on the UEFA Champions League group stage after a dramatic 6-5 aggregate defeat to Norway's Bodo Glimt. The South African international came off the bench in extra time, and that was before Bodo Glimt scored a 117th minute winner to progress. So Union Saint-Gilloise now drop into the season's UEFA Europa League. Still with football, the Kenyan international Timothy Oma has joined the English side Charlton Athletic on a season-long loan from Slavia Prague, with an option to make the move permanent. And rugby news, New Zealand were ruthless in their rugby's greatest rivalry match. They had a 54-0 victory over the Sharks in Durban last night. The injury-hit home side stayed in the contest for much of the opening half, trailing just 14-0 at the break before the All Blacks exploded with 6 second-half tries. So now the All Blacks head to Pretoria. They'll be facing the Bulls come Saturday before the opening test against the Springboks, and that's on the 22nd of August. And that's your National Briefing Sport. We'll tackle more at the top of the hour. I am Zai Khan.
Yo, listen, casual day, yo, one beats, one drum, hear the sound, let the rhythm move around, beats is one, rhythm matters, sticker on, bring your beats, Friday, 4 September, hit the streets, join the cause, it's casual day, .co.za, beats is one.
This is a SABC-supported initiative.
The FNB Market Brief was brought to you by FNB Business, your dedicated partner with decades of expertise building and growing South African businesses. FNB, help changes everything. The Market Brief with Ndauleng Lechela on SAfm.
Good morning, Ndauleng. Always a pleasure speaking to you this morning. There's quite a bit that we have confidence around small businesses in the US and also Wall Street backing Nvidia. Some great news.
Koketso, I hope you're well and I hope you're keeping warm. Getting right into it. Now, small business owners over in the US are feeling more optimistic with plans to hire and easing concerns around inflation helping to lift morale. Now, the NFIB says fewer businesses now see inflation as their biggest problem, while more are looking to expand their workforce over the next 3 months. But that optimism is tempered by uncertainty around the Iran conflict and concerns about the availability of workers. Labor quality and availability was the biggest concern cited by small businesses, with more than a third reporting jobs they cannot fill. So while sentiment is improving, businesses are still navigating significant uncertainty and a tight labor market. Moving over to company news, Nvidia is bringing Wall Street deeper into the AI boom, teaming up with 6 major financial firms to help raise more than $500 billion for data centers, chip factories, and power infrastructure. Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and Blackstone are among those involved as demand for computing capacity surges. Now, the move shows just how much capital is needed to build the infrastructure underpinning the AI race and how increasingly dependent the industry is on external financing. Now, that also raises the stakes for investors. The Bank of England has warned that growing AI debt could amplify financial risks, potentially making a downturn in the sector a much bigger problem for global markets. Tracking those markets, risk remains firmly off as traders assess the latest developments or lack thereof between Iran and the US, that is. Wall Street retreated from record highs, closing in the red overnight, while Asian markets are mixed this morning, with South Korea leading gains and Chinese shares lagging as investors weigh lingering inflation risks. Now, those cost pressures are also weighing on the JSE, with energy market volatility keeping investors cautious. Brent hovering around $89 a barrel after briefly moving above $90 as hopes for a US-Iran deal fade. Now, locally, the market closed in the red. Then over in currencies, the rand on the front foot this hour at 16.19 to the dollar, 21.87 to the pound, and 18.68 to the euro. That's your market update. I'll be back in the next hour with more.
Thank you very much, Ndauling. Much appreciated. In the next few minutes.
This FNB Market Brief is brought to you by FNB Business, empowering South African entrepreneurs with the relevant insights they need to grow and succeed every day. FNB Business is proud to partner with SAfm's The National Briefing. We stand shoulder to shoulder with South African entrepreneurs and businesses because we know building a business is a 24/7 commitment. Whether you're managing cash flow, planning for growth, or navigating challenges, we deliver the sharp insights and practical solutions you need to move forward with confidence. From smart funding options to expert business advice, FNB Business is right there with you. Visit fnb.co.za/business. FNB. Help changes everything. Africa in Focus with Advocate Sipho Mantula on SAfm.
At 20 minutes to 7, we connect with a dear brother, Advocate Sipho Mantula, researcher at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. Ramoholo, as always, good morning.
Africa, refreshing morning and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Interesting moments, Koketso, the 9 decades of SAfm. I always track the 3 decades, 95, 96, but having John Perlman, that will be interesting. That's even quiz him about his show in the morning. I mean, was he covering the African continent like before? Interesting to look back. How have we been consistent as the leading radio station for 9 decades on the African continent?
He is already here, professionals. He's already here. He's heard your question, and we will get to that on the other side of 7, between 7 and 8. But what we have on the table as we have Africa in Focus this morning, Advocate Mantula, starting off in Zambia, what is happening there? We're seeing the economy dominating the election campaign and the battle of alliances in Zambia.
That is quite true, Koketso. So tomorrow Zambia decides. This is the 8th election since 1991, Zambia going back to multi-party democracy. Now the contestation, Koketso, you'll know it will be always around the economy, it will always be around youth unemployment. But what you are picking up also from analysts that side is that there will be a battle of alliances of what we'll call smaller parties gaining up with the ruling party, and opposition also coming very clear. And in this instance, we see Hakainde contesting with Brian Mudumbile, who is of the Tonze Pamuti Alliance. and the United Party for National Development of Hakainde, having almost 15 smaller parties, joining this alliance of these elections, highly contested. Young people expected to vote in those elections tomorrow. But also, I've been tracking and tracing the SADC and the AU observer missions, but it is also important to note that these elections, it is a test for the SADC region, despite we have a SADC summit just around eThekwini. Hakainde is still waiting to get into the State House, Koketso. He won't be in eThekwini.
Well, speaking of elections and changes that happen in specific countries, in the DRC, I see President Felix Tshisekedi being convinced, and I don't know if it succeeds, to abandon plans for a constitutional referendum. What is he asking of his people?
No. This is coming from opposition, actually, Koketso, arguing Tshisekedi to say, can you abandon your thinking of this constitutional referendum of going into the third term? And these are the organizations that are calling themselves No to Constitutional Change, Generation Z, DRC, Lucha, RDC, are calling Tshisekedi to say, rather focus on the stability in the eastern part of the DRC and the agent needs of the country. Don't go around and talk about the referendum when you're getting into power. Rather focus on what we are saying are the severe social and economic hardships of the people of the DRC.
I suppose what we witnessed in Zimbabwe is what Tshisekedi is trying, but with a different approach, bringing it back home, Africa, the 14th Marikana commemoration, commemorating that massacre is happening at UNISA.
That is today, Koketso. The University of the Land of South Africa will be hosting the 14th Marikana Massacre commemorative lecture starting in the morning in partnership with the Association of the Mine Workers and Construction Union, AMCU, under the theme, Koketso, bullets were faster than economic emancipation. Very interesting, Koketso. When I looked at that report of the Farlam Commission, it's almost 660 pages. It took 3 years, Koketso. The commission was formed just 7 days after the massacre on the 16th of August. And then the report was supposed to come out in 4 months, Koketso. So it took 3 years. It came out in 2015. And as we speak today, like I said, let's wait and hear what will be the debate today. AMCU will be leading that debate. There are some few scholars from UNISA who will be engaging with this theme of dealing with the challenges of what happened. Others are saying justice has taken so long, when you look at the justice in the side of the victims, survivors on this issue of Marikana Koketso. So it's very important to always look back. And like I said, the archives take you back between the 9th of August and the 16th. Others are saying between the 12th and the 14th of August. So let's not look at it just on the 16th of August. Let's look at the origins and the genesis of what really happened. And others are saying it has been tradition of violence during collective bargaining process in this country, dating back to the mining strikes in the 1940s. So something that should not be amazed, but the level of violence that we saw in 2012, Koketso, let's hope today it will be reflected, but justice will be served to the survivors and victims.
Definitely making sure that we recognize what happened on this day, and in our historical archives, that's exactly what we do. What happened on this day in 2010 at the United Nations General Assembly?
A very important day, Koketso. It was declared that the 12th of August will be known as the International Year of Youth, calling on government, civil society, communities to support all the activities of the young people. It dates back, actually, Koketso, to the 80s, about recognizing the role of the youth. And this year's theme is about different contexts, common aspirations. And this, I will always say, the youth of Africa are at that mark, or are at the core when you think of different contexts, different content of what the youth are learning today and their common aspirations. Asante sana, Koketso, as we're still on the SAfm leading the Trovezation, observing the Women's Month and the 9 decades of SAfm with the legends like John Perlman, Bongigwala, Titi, I've been hearing few names, Others are no more, Koketso. I would have loved to hear people like Boyombuli, Jolani Gwala, but for me, is that there were many names, Rana Bet, those were the names that one thinks of what made radio during those years. Asante sana Mafrika.
Not forgetting that you are part of that journey as well, and we celebrate you as well. Thank you very much, Advocate Sipho Mandula there. It is the national briefing on SAfm, 13 minutes to 7.
SAfm supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAfm, leading the conversation.
Get into real conversations weekdays at 4:30 on SABC2 with me, Penny Libiani, with Ain't Like Let's Connect.
I'm Frederica Lucas, bringing you some of the most inspiring guests and practical advice.
Every evening, we bring family advice and all your favorite celebrities.
It's a big celebration of local talent from across industries.
Catch Ain't Like Let's Connect weekdays at 4:30 on SABC2 or stream anytime on SABC+.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Motorists leaving Brackpan and Springs are reminded about the two work zones on the N17, one at Boxburg's Rondebolt Road, the other further down at Wadeville Osborne Road. So 2 queues to get through on your way to Joburg. Again this morning, N3 South, crash at Galuli's interchange, slowing traffic coming through from Linksfield Road. And 12R24 routes in from Ekurhuleni towards Galuli's quite heavily backed up. And the other side of town, the N1 between 14th Avenue and Bayers Nordia, driving slow this morning. Pretoria looks fairly standard and fairly normal, including delays on WFN Como, leaving the Attridgeville area towards Pretoria Central as well. Durban, heavy rain, a bit of flooding, surface water to work through this morning, poor visibility. Just take it easy, give yourself plenty of time to get where you're going this morning. Conditions are pretty dangerous, pretty treacherous, and just really difficult actually. A lot of traffic lights down as well. Big set Main and Belleville in the Malvern area. That's going to cut it and cause some problems. M13 from Hillcrest heading down towards top of Fields Hill at Kloof. That is looking slow, and some flooding on the M4 inbound around the Umbilo Dal Bridge area to worry about. The right lane is currently blocked with running water. Cape Town, N1 into town, heavy from the R300 Brackenfell past 2 breakdowns on your way towards the N7 Goodwood exit, and the N2 inbound heavy this morning from Robert Sobukwe just after the airport. You'll sit down to Hospital Bend. M7 Jake Scoville, R300 no lights, queuing pressure again out of Mitchell's Plain. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
SAfm is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfm Radio.
At 10 minutes to 7, Koketso in for Kathy Motlatlan on the national briefing. A reminder, as SAfm celebrates 90 years on the other side of the hour, I'll be joined for the remainder of the national briefing by Ndade John Perlman. I look forward to him being right here next to me. There's a lot to be said about this man. There's a lot to be said about my history in radio and listening to Ndade John Perlman. So that happens just after the news at 7. We need to focus back on tragedy that has hit specifically in Cape Town. 11 people have been killed in 3 separate overnight shootings in Langa, Gugulethu and Khayelitsha, once again highlighting the devastating impact of gang violence and illegal firearms in Cape Town's communities. Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia saying that residents in gang-affected areas must stand up and reclaim their communities, while police have reinforced deployments in several hotspots. To speak to us about this, we're joined on the line by Dr. Llewellyn McMaster of the Cape Crime Crisis Coalition. Dr. McMaster, as always, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Of course, there's the tragedy of what we're witnessing, and a part of me also wonders how often we talk about what happens in the absence of there being a solution. It is not the first time that we're seeing killings happening in the Cape Flats. It is not the first time that we're hearing what national leadership has got to say about how residents should speak out. What are the solutions?
I think we must all agree that this whole situation has developed in a very deep crisis. over a long time now. It's not going to be easy, to find lasting solutions. But there are also things that is really frustrating. And as you rightly say, it's just that we're sick and tired of rhetoric, of promises. When the president earlier this year announced in the SONA that the army will be deployed, a lot of people, were hopeful that this time around it will bring changes, it will bring peace, it will help to to stop the continuous trauma in our communities. And others like ourselves were very skeptical based on the past deployment and so on. But yeah, I think I put the blame maybe squarely on SAPS that has been dealing with this gang problem for many years, but seems to be unable to come with tangible solutions.
Here's a question, secondly, and we've got limited time, unfortunately, Dr. McMaster. Yeah. What are you, as the Cape Crime Crisis Coalition, bringing to the table that would possibly bring a different approach or a solution to what we know has not helped or worked?
Thank you for that, because it is the frustration. I've said to the Premier also, in a conversation, that we cannot do the same thing over again and expecting different results. So we have, ever since, we've started to engage Professor Kachalia, we gave him a document last September, outlining how we see the problem with gangsterism, and what we see as solutions, a couple of things that we mentioned in that document. We then responded, when he gave feedback, to say that let us sit down and together with the police co-design anti-gang strategy, because at that stage he said there was no plan. So we have started that process. And unfortunately, it is also going a bit slowly. It's only one of the stations, commissioners in Menenberg, that responded after we had a meeting, a well-attended meeting by the police and civil society.
And
we started that process in Menenberg.
Yeah, and in the meantime, unfortunately, lives continue to be lost. One hopes that your initiative, alongside SAPS, a solution is found. We appreciate your time this morning, Dr. Llewellyn McMaster of the Cape Crime Crisis Coalition. The challenge that I have, and having had these discussions about gang warfare on the Cape Flats and in parts of Johannesburg for a number of years, is that it seems as if we are only looking at it from a perspective of policing. We're not seeing a multidisciplinary approach that also speaks to the core root of the problems that we find in some of these communities. For as long as that is not happening, how do we expect for there to be a solution? You can share your thoughts on this. Send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614-104-107. Up next, we speak to Dumsani Mfapa as we make sense of their position around their proposed BEE procurement regulations.
At Koketso Sachane and at SAfm Radio on Twitter.
Dumsane Mbafa is warning that government's proposed public procurement regulations could undermine transformation and weaken the role of BEE in opening up economic opportunities. He is a member of the National Office Bearers of the Black Business Council and head of policy. He joins us now on the line. Dumsane, thank you very much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Koketso and listeners. Thank you for having us.
How is it, or if you could maybe briefly explain your argument around these proposed procurement regulations and how they do undermine transformation?
So what happens? I mean, maybe let's start here. So following the gazetting of the Public Procurement Act in July 2024, National Treasury has recently published a draft comment, which is recently closed. The regulations, and in these regulations, contrary to what the Constitution, specifically Section 9(2) and Section 217 of the Constitution, imposes a very clear and unambiguous mandate that government must enact a legislation prescribing a framework for protecting and advancing, historically disadvantaged groups. And we've always understood that the framework for doing exactly that has always been the broad-based BEE. But, in these regulations, the broad-based BEE is just not there. There is an attempt to decouple, BEE from public procurement, and we do not know what could be the reasons. We could only speculate that it could be in the midst of criticism from, I must say, from a small minority, of South Africans who oppose the redress of the apartheid economic structure, who prefer, to retain the old and the current status of inequality.
One wishes, Dumsane, that there was more time to unpack this, and we've got the news at 7 o'clock. But I do want to understand one aspect of this. Are you, as the Black Business Council, arguing that government is effectively undoing or going or making a U-turn away from what's supposed to be procurement serving as a form of transformation, or regulations around procurement serving as a form of transformation?
That's precisely the point that we're making. I mean, we are very clear that in terms of these regulations, a government is completely decoupling, a BE from public procurement, and this to us signal a massive ideological shift of the ANC government, because that's always been their position, and I'm sure political scientists will live to write the story. But this to us, this constitutes a betrayal of the historical mandate of liberation. Because economic empowerment and economic liberation is key in terms of the mandate, of this government. And we are surprised when they are, creating, this policy uncertainty around BE, but not only doing that, but undermining BE, because BE is anchored in public procurement.
Yeah.
If you decouple BE from public procurement, BE will collapse almost instantly.
More time is needed, but unfortunately, it is that moment where we need to bid you farewell. But thank you very much for the brief moment you've given us. Dumsane Mpafade is a member of the National Office Bearers of the Black Business Council. Have you praised yourself of the proposed BE procurement regulations? What are your thoughts? Send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. It's 7 o'clock. On the other side of 7, I look forward to having with me Ndade John Perlman, but not before the news with Ann Musa.
Theft, accident, and 1 million rand third-party cover for your older car. Outsurance Essential has it all. Get a quote. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185. Outsurance Essential is made for older cars. Claims are paid in cash within 5 working days, and you choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43185. That's CAR to 43185.
In our top stories, Kusatu raises alarm over rise in unemployment rate, and Northwest Police probe deadly collapse at disused mine dump site. Good morning. Labour Federation Kusatu says the country's unemployment rate is alarming. The Labour Federation was responding to the latest quarterly labour force survey, which revealed the official unemployment rate had increased to 33.6%. The data indicates an additional 345,000 persons are unemployed. Kusatu's parliamentary coordinator Matthew Parks says these figures are more than just stats.
It's a crisis, and I think for far too long we've allowed ourselves to normalize it. We have a crisis of 43% unemployment. It's been increasing continuously for much of the past decade, and in fact, it's doubled over the last 20 years. For young people, it's even worse. It's over 62%. So you have 12 million people who just can't find work. About 5 million of them are young people. This creates a real crisis for them. We're in danger of creating a permanent class of unemployed persons.
Northwest Police say investigators are continuing following a cave-in that claimed the lives of 14 illegal miners at a disused dumping site in Nkaneng informal settlement near Rustenburg. According to police, the site was being managed by Sustenza Trading of Moinoi, which holds a permit to explore for platinum group metals in the area. At least 8 illegal miners were hospitalized. All of them are undocumented Lesotho nationals. Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Arthur Adams says additional resources will be deployed to determine whether more illegal miners remain trapped beneath the rubble.
The South African Police Service is still deploying specialized resources like our search and rescue dogs and specialized equipment to see if there is none that are still further trapped in under this rubble. We can't just move along and assume that it's only 14 that passed away. We owe it to the families that we need to wrap up and conclusively then come to an understanding that there's nobody else that is trapped in that rubble.
The Madlanga Commission has heard that a Section 28(1) authorization application in the Medicare 24 investigation was prepared before a Section 27 referral had been made to IDAC. More than 10 senior police generals, including National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola, are in court over the 360 million rand health services tender. The tender was awarded to alleged cartel member Vuzimuzi Matlala's company, Medicare 24 Tshwane District. IDAC's state advocate Rushantha Ramsamy told the inquiry she only became aware in May last year that a letter previously referred to as the SAPS contract and visa contract was in fact the Medicare 24 case. She was being led in evidence by advocate Lee Segels Ngube.
So this is now on the 16th of April 2025, and you're being told that General Matlo will be the Section 27 referral. She'll depose to the affidavit.
Correct.
Okay. In order for it to be referred to IDAC for investigation. But you are having this discussion even before there's a referral.
This discussion is before a referral, and a 28(1) application has already been submitted.
The High Court sitting in Palm Ridge east of Johannesburg is set to deliver judgment in the trial of Stembiso Mdlalose, who's accused of starting a fire that killed 76 people at the Umsindiso building in the Johannesburg CBD in 2023. He faces 76 counts of murder and 12 counts of attempted murder. The state alleges he started the fire in an attempt to conceal evidence of an assault. Neria Tlakotsa reports.
The state alleges that Stembiso Mdlalose started the fire in an attempt to conceal evidence of an assault. It says Mdlalose assaulted a man who also lived in the hijacked building to a pulp and doused him with petrol before setting his body alight. The fire then spread through the building, resulting into the tragedy. Initially, Mdlalose confessed to starting the fire.
And finally, Zimbabwean authorities say 15 bodies have been recovered after a passenger ferry capsized on Lake Kariba. 77 people have been rescued, but 27 are still missing. The BBC's Patrick Maguire reports.
Zimbabwe's National Disaster Management Agency said the ferry had been overloaded when it set off. An inspection of ticket sales confirmed there were 114 adult passengers on board, plus 5 crew, and an unknown number of children below ticketing age. The vessel was authorised to carry only 90 people. Footage shared online appears to show the overturned hull floating in the water. Search and rescue efforts are continuing. Lake Kariba straddles the border between Zimbabwe and Zambia and one of the world's largest man-made reservoirs.
Recapping the top story, Labour Federation COSATU says the country's unemployment rate is alarming. The Labour Federation was responding to the latest quarterly labour force survey. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Pay 5-star restaurant price at the drive-thru, so why overpay to insure your older car? Outsurance Essential Car Insurance covers older cars for much less. 38-year-old Porsche pays only 512 Rand a month for her 2015 Kia Picanto and has no upfront excess payable, so no unexpected out-of-pocket payments. Get Outsurance Essential Car Insurance today for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 150,000 rands. SMS car to 43185. That's car to 43185. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
Very good morning to you in your SAfm Sports headlines. Soccer, Sundown snatch victory with a dramatic late comeback at TS Galaxy. And in rugby, the All Blacks run in 8 tries to dismantle the Sharks in Durban. We'll have details around 7:30.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A bit messy around Galuli's interchange. There is a crash on the N3 South ramp to the N12 and R24 eastbound. So coming from Edenvale, it's slow. Northbound, coming off the N3 from Bedford View to get into the N12 East, that's slow. And there's quite a big backlog of traffic on the N12 and R24 westbound options coming in from Ekurhuleni. There's a crash before Galuli's interchange as well. Mike 1 from Boyston through to Parktown's already fully loaded. The rest of the highway network's getting around fairly okay at this hour. Durban, heavy rain and a lot of traffic disruption. N2 queuing M7 through Spaghetti Junction, queuing Kumashu Highway up to Umhlanga, and the report of a crash a little bit further up by Sabaya. M13 Hillcrest down Fields Hill into Pinetown slow. N3 inbound to Paradise Valley, passing Pinetown on your way to Durban slow, and flooding on the M4 Southern Freeway going in through the Dell Bridge area. A lot of traffic lights down as well, particularly around Main and Belleville, around Malvern. That's going to be busy. Heading out of Cape Town, a crash on the M2 as you get into Grabo, just by that Orchards Farm stall. No traffic lights. M7 R300, so that's dreadful. And a couple of breakdowns this morning on the M1 inbound around the N7 highway. So coming through from Belleville, it's busy across all lanes. Malabongwe Drive off Sandown Road. Saw it yesterday. Seeing it today. Big traffic out towards the N7 at Dunoon. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. The National Briefing on SAfm. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
It is 10 minutes past 7. Good morning and welcome to the National Briefing. The name is Koketso Sachane. With you, standing in for Kathy Motlatlana. I'm feeling a little bit, I don't know if rattled or excited is the word actually. Because joining me now, a man that I've admired for many, many years, listened to, also had the opportunity to stand in for at another radio station, and that is John Perlman. Welcome back home.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very, very special to be here. It's a pleasure, and I must say, it's a real honor. 90 years.
90 years.
SAfm, very, very special, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Really, really appreciate it. Before we get ahead of myself, or I get ahead of myself, there are a number of people who have been waiting for you, who have been sending messages, and there's a special message for you from one of our SAfm listeners. If we can get...
Hey, Koketso, good morning. It's Mashobane in Pietermaritzburg. Koketso, I only have one word. Please tell John Perlman that I appreciate having heard his voice on the radio. I started listening to SAfm, and I think it was 2001 or 2002. Him and Nikiwe Pikisha, they were hosting the AM Live. That is when I was introduced to SAfm. Thank him for me. Please, Koketso. He's the voice that introduced me to this radio station. Thank you, Koketso. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much for that voice notes. Memories?
Yeah, you know what struck me listening to Mashobane, and thank you, Mashobane, for those warm words, is the incredible reach of SAfm and the incredible reach of the SABC as a public broadcaster. Literally, the SABC goes out to every corner of the country in every language in the country, and I think that's what makes it, firstly, unique, but an absolutely precious entity in South African, first of all, media, but second, national life. So, you know, as soon as I heard Pietermaritzburg, I thought, oh, okay, that's nice. It's another corner of the country. And yes, indeed, memories flood back.
John Perlman is with us on the national briefing this morning. For the rest of the morning, at least until 9, do continue to send messages. And we do, of course, have a number of matters on the table in this hour. The big story, the unemployment crisis going from bad to worse. We get SAFTU's reaction on the unemployment crisis as well. And then another matter, there's a reason why, if you look at where we are streaming, I'm dressed like an army official.
Yes. I'm fairly well padded too, I must be honest.
The weather crisis, of course, very important to speak to that and how it's affecting a number of us in the country. Those are the conversations in this hour. In between, of course, you sharing your appreciation and showing your love to Ndade John Perlman as SAfm celebrates 90 years.
In case you missed it.
Another type of attack I want to ask about is digital sextortion. How does that tend to be carried out and against who?
You know, when we look at sextortion, criminals are exploiting something very human. They're exploiting fear and shame and reputational harm. And the criminal's objective isn't the image itself, it's that emotional leverage they create to pressure someone into paying quickly. And, you know, like I said, AI has dramatically increased the scale and the sophistication of that type of attack.
Koketso Sachane, AI and digital policy expert.
That was the Daily Discourse with Joanne Joseph. Every generation has a story. Every generation has questions. Every generation has a voice. For 90 years, SAfm has been part of the conversation. This August, we listen back to the voices that brought us here. We celebrate the people who shaped our journey, and we listen for the voices that will shape what comes next, including the launch of a new annual SAfm property. This Women's Month, we are in search of an SAfm woman. 4 extraordinary women, 4 extraordinary journeys. One question: what does it mean to be an SAfm woman? SAfm 90 years. Women, a new voice. 90 years of conversation. A nation story. Our shared future. From 1 August, SAfm.
SAfm. Prime time all day long.
At 15 minutes past 7, South Africa, we have a problem. The unemployment crisis seems to be deepening, with the official unemployment rate rising to 33.6% in the second quarter of this year. The number of unemployed people increasing by 345,000 to 8.5 million, while unemployment, or rather employment, fell by 16,000. It's a major crisis, and John Perlman, and John Perlman, of course, with me in studio or in the SABC auditorium foyer as we celebrate 90 years. Liso Mdutyana is debt and budget policy researcher from the Institute for Economic Justice. Liso, thank you very much for your time. Good morning. Good morning, Liso. We might have a challenge there. Well, this is a problem. I thought we were getting better, but it seems like we're not.
It's a massive problem, and what really strikes me, Koketso, is because we were talking about yesterday as well as the whole country was, and you can't help feeling that we've spoken about it over and over and over again, and the same questions keep going round in a loop. Some people say government should be doing more, but more of what exactly? And the private sector should be doing more, but more of what exactly? So I think we've got the numbers which are terrifying, and what I think is not always present is the fact that behind every single number is a life. There's somebody who was somebody's child, maybe now have children of their own. They studied, they were told, get yourself an education, opportunity will come your way. And I think the one thing we've got to really take stock of is the huge emotional damage that that's doing to individuals, families, and our communities. And we see it all around us.
Yep. And I do hope that we have Liso with us. Liso Mdujana, Debt and Budget Policy Researcher at the Institute for Economic Justice. Liso, are you with us? I'm not too sure if we will be able to connect with Liso. What is to be done, Dr. John? That is the question, because looking at the numbers and speaking of how the unemployment crisis amongst young people is approaching 50%. And I always make this reference because I found it quite startling a number of years ago when then Statistician General Dr. Padilo Hotla spoke about how it's a ticking time bomb and it's getting worse.
Yeah, the numbers of youth unemployment are absolutely shocking. I think the other thing is the way in which we engage with the numbers, because on the one hand, that figure of 33.6% is bad enough, but those are people who are looking for work. And in the assumption that other people are not looking for work is that they've given up. But it is the impoverishment of families, individuals, and communities. I keep coming back to that point that makes it unbelievably difficult to looking for work costs money. Jobs are not often located in the places where the poorest South Africans live. You need money to go and join the queue for a particular job. You need money to be able to use data to go and see what's available by way of opportunity. So, 33.6% is bad enough, but it's worse than that.
We have been led to believe, to agree, that our solutions, at the State of the Nation address, where we're hearing of government's plans around infrastructure development and how that will be a contributing factor to addressing issues of unemployment. We've seen also announcements being made during the budget speech by the finance minister that speaks to the same, but we're not seeing it. At least these numbers say whatever it is that's happening is not working. Whatever it is you've got planned, it's not working.
I think there are a number of issues, Koketso, that you're raising, and they're all equally important. The one thing is, yes, we do hear speeches and we do see plans. How many times have we heard from various people that South Africa is being turned into a building site because of all the infrastructure development? You drive through our cities, you drive down our highways. Do you see cranes? Do you see the skyline filled with a sense that there are building sites? I don't see it. It's not happening. And I think it's really important to ask the question as to why, if there is the money, because we're told there is, if there is the plan and we are assured that that's in place as well, it's not hitting the ground. And I think that is where a lot of people's deepest frustrations are, that they're told it's coming, and in their lives it appears not to be.
As you ask about cranes, where I've seen cranes.
Yes.
I've seen cranes in Sandton. I've seen cranes in Sea Point.
Right.
And Greenpoint in Cape Town. And that's a private sector. That's development happening there. But surely, Dr. John, there is a role to be played by the private sector as well when it comes to issues of infrastructure and employment creation.
I think that's very true. The one sort of note I want to maybe add to the conversation, because like the weather, it's getting very cold and very, 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 very bleak. The one thing I always look for, though, Koketso, when I'm, because we get these quarterly labor force survey numbers, is where are jobs being created? Where is it growing? So, for example, agriculture has been really positive for quite a while. We've got, to some degree, I wouldn't call it a mining boom, but gold and platinum prices have been great for a while. the areas where we're dropping, for example, are described as community and social services. I'd want to understand better why that's going on. But if you go back to agriculture, it's a sector that's showing real signs of flourishing. These latest numbers, there's been something of a drop. And I'm not making excuses for policymakers and people who should be investing the money they've made in South Africa back into the country. But we've really been blindsided by what's happened in the Middle East.
We definitely have one person that could assist us in understanding what is happening in different sectors. Zwelinzi Mavavi is SAFTU General Secretary who joins us on the line now. SAFTU also saying what we are witnessing, what we are discussing right now in Tata John is proof of governments in economic policies that are failing the working class. Nopala, thank you very much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Koketso, and good morning to that stalwart there.
Yes.
John, how are you guys?
I'm very well, thanks. Good to be speaking to you again, Mr. Vavi.
Thank you very much, Koketso and John.
You know, I want to bring this down away from the huge numbers and into what you've been doing, Mr. Vavi, for literally decades now. People talk a lot about the private sector, and a lot of your criticism is split equally between government and corporate South Africa. When in your life, when you've been sitting in, for example, wage negotiations, maybe there's a Section 189 retrenchment process and so on, what has been the negotiating room of a union trying to get corporates to protect jobs and create new ones? Because I'm sure you've had some very interesting conversations, some productive, some unproductive. Is there some secret source that you've learned to make in your life as a unionist that we could be using in trying to solve this problem?
Well, all we know, John, is this, that every time unemployment increases to these rates, the balance of forces shift in the negotiating table to the employer, undoubtedly. And that's why since 1990, the share of wages to the GDP has been going down and down all the time, and at this moment, it represents the biggest gap.
Yes.
It's just that I can't recall the figure. That's what you would then see as one of the driving force of the inequalities, income inequalities in the main. So, regrettably, when you have, and let's correct the figures, if you look at underemployment in South Africa, meaning when you count people who are underutilized and who would want to work the full 8 hours and even more, but who are unable to do so because they are on short term, the unemployment rate in South Africa shoots to 46.3%. And we just don't like the so-called official figure of 30-something percent. We use the broad definition of 43.8, but more importantly, the underutilization jumps to 46.3%. That's the numbers of people that would like to be in employment, but who are sitting at home, frustrated, chasing the sun, angry, and increasingly very frustrated.
I want to ask you this, though. I mean, I get that at the point at which unions meet business, particularly around issues of wages, increases, and so on, it is a conflictual relationship to a degree. But I can't believe that everyone in the South African business world is happy with this, because after all, if you have the kind of unstable society that you're hinting at in the last thing you said, that's not good for business either. I mean, is there no meeting of minds between unions and corporate South Africa about how we can at least start making some kind of dent in this?
Well, at some point, we established a joint structure, John, I'm sure you know this, between business and labor. We called it the Millennium Labour Council.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it was disrupted when the whole unity of the trade union movement was disrupted between 2011, 12, and 13 in order to pursue narrow interest. of the tripartite alliance at the expense of the worker unity and ensuring that the workers have a voice in the negotiating table so that we can look at, in particular, the crisis at hand. The economy has not been growing at rates that we will celebrate. The crisis of unemployment is as old as the apartheid in terms of how it affects black people, women, and people living in the rural areas, but now increasingly how it affects the young people. So unfortunately, we hope that at some point there will be sanity. Now that the 4 labor federations are closely coming closer, in fact, are being forced by the crisis to unite more around issues of joint campaigns on job losses and the dysfunctional local government, privatization of energy, and all of that. So we hope that we're going back to the full strength of the labor movement, a united labor movement that can force the employer into a negotiating table to make concessions.
Right.
Surely the employer, some narrow, greedy employers are very happy because the levels of profits in the face of this crisis are breaking the previous records. Yet those profits are just not helping us when it comes to what matters most, the stability of the country.
No, Bala, we are out of time, and we do appreciate you being with us this morning, as always. SAFTU General Secretary Zwelin Zima Vavi. We've got a number of crises, the unemployment crisis, and then looking at the way that we addressed this morning, Dr. John, yes. We've got the weather crisis as well, whereas the country experiencing a mix of winter weather, with some areas seeing rain and snow as temperatures drop. Letlhonolo Thobela is meteorologist from the South African Weather Service, who joins us now on the line. Letlhonolo, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate the cold. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm happy to hear that someone appreciates the cold. Are you warm?
Yeah, slightly. If we could, we have seen, of course, myself and Dr. John in Johannesburg, full coats, even though we are indoors. We've seen snow in different parts of the country. Can you explain what is happening right now briefly, and what should we look out for in different parts of the country?
All right, I have some good news for you. That one thing for sure is that this precipitation has started to dissipate over most parts of the central areas. Now it's starting to be weaker and weaker in terms of the eastern areas when we speak about the intensity. So we're expecting just a 30% chance of rain and showers later in the afternoon, mainly just showers that could be drizzled into the southern parts of Gauteng, into Mpumalanga, as well as covering KwaZulu-Natal and the eastern half of the Eastern Cape. However, for KwaZulu-Natal, there is still that 60% chance of rain and showers, but we're still expecting a bit of snow over the high-lying areas of the Eastern Cape into Lesotho and the extreme western parts of KwaZulu-Natal for today. We have warnings for damaging winds, and these are expected mainly over the southwestern parts of the Northern Cape into the south coast of the country. Do remember that into the interior, damaging winds may result in navigation to be difficult, especially for high-sided vehicles. Along the south coast, expect some more of those damaging winds to result in navigation at sea to be difficult, and may also pose a threat to some settlements around the coastal areas, so please take caution. But some good news from tomorrow, we're expecting some partly cloudy conditions for the central and the eastern parts of the country, a 30% chance for the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal into the low veld of Mpumalanga, as well as the eastern parts of Limpopo. But once you start to get to Friday, things start to clear a bit, just partly cloudy conditions into the weekend. Temperatures will start to be cool up until Monday.
We appreciate you, Letlhonolo Thobela, meteorologist from the South African Weather Service. I do hope, as you listen to the national briefing, that the voice of Ndate John Perlman and me, Koketso Sachane, is warming you up, if at all you are in the cold part of the country. It is 7:30, time for the latest news headlines with Ann Musa.
Good morning. Thanks, Koketso. In the headlines, a suspect arrested in connection with the murders of 2 police officers in Lega Park on Gauteng's East Rand is expected to appear in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. Labour Federation, COSATU, says the country's unemployment rate is alarming. The Labour Federation was responding to the latest quarterly Labour Force survey, which revealed the official unemployment rate had increased to 33.6%. and teams of firefighters, soldiers and volunteers are continuing efforts to rescue any survivors of the powerful earthquake that hit Western Colombia on Monday. At least 240 people are now reported to have died. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Kick off in Pretoria with a heavy backlog on the N4, driving to Pretoria, coming through from Watermeer down towards the M1. Pretoria East roadworks on Solomon, Mashlangu and Gaasfontein. That part of Pretoria East very slow this morning. And a crash on Joburg's N12 and R24 routes coming in from Ekurhuleni at Galuli's. Those routes queuing. Crash on the N3 South at Galuli. Still there. Delays coming through Edenvale to that one. N17, heaviest of the backlog through the roadworks this morning. Westbound, Joburg bound into the Wadeville, Osborne Road construction area there. Durban, it's wet. That guarantees a crash on Fields Hill. We've got one this morning. Crest through Kloof, down the hill into Pinetown, badly held up because of that. The M4 coming up into Umbilo from Clarewood under a bit of pressure. The N2 jamming between Queen Nundy Drive and Gateway. Possible breakdown in the construction zone there as well this morning. Cape Town, the N1 inbound heavy from Belleville. Malabongwa Drive coming off Sandown out of Parklands North down towards Dunoons. A really big backlog. And if you've got any plans to travel in Kobo area of Eastern Cape today, give it a miss. Testing intensifying in that area, blocking most of the routes through that area down towards Umtata, Eliaduta or Koffenwaber. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai. You are reminding Sundowns that they survived and also, I suppose, making some TS Galaxy fans depressed at what could have been.
Yes, Koketso. TS Galaxy did give them a bit of a fright. But you know what? Sundowns, they always find, I don't know, something right at the death. So what a roller coaster. Definitely late drama last night and beautiful football. Mamelodi Sundowns, they had a thrilling 3-2 comeback victory over TS Galaxy. All happened in Mbombela last night. The Brazilians looked headed for their first opening day league defeat since 2007 after Victor Letsualo inspired Galaxy into a 2-1 lead. But substitute Spelele Mkhulise had the final say, scoring twice in the closing minute to snatch all 3 points. Now, Sundowns host Kaizer Chiefs, that's on Saturday, while TS Galaxy will welcome Golden Arrows on Sunday. Kruger United picking up their first ever Betway Premiership point after holding Marumo Gallants to a goalless draw at the Royal Bafokeng Stadium. Sherpa United and Richards Bay shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw at Dobsonville, while Polokwane City climbed to the top of the Betway Premiership standings after a 3-3 draw with Stellenbosch. All happened at Seshego Stadium last night. Under rugby, the All Blacks ran in 8 tries to overwhelm the Sharks, 54-0 in wet conditions at Kings Park last night, leading just 14-0 at halftime. New Zealand cut loose in the second half. The All Blacks now head to Pretoria to face the Bulls on Saturday, while the Sharks continue their pre-season build-up ahead of the URC. And finally, netball. Tshwane's wait for the first Spar Senior Netball Championship title since 2019 continues after a heartbreaking 56-55 defeat to the host Cape Town. That final happened at the Stellenberg High School yesterday. Despite the narrow loss, head coach Roseanne Matthys says her team has made significant progress and she's looking ahead, saying she will take time to rest before preparing for next year's competition.
I'm not part of university netball, so for me, yes, it is just preparing for next year. Club, most of these girls in the team are, if they're not at Tux, they're part of the Harlequins, which is our club. So we will be focusing wholly on next year and preparing those combinations as well. I mean, Ina Marie and Rochelle in the circle. The girls that's not part of the Tux system. But for the girls, yes, they are going into Varsity Cup in a week's time. So their recovery needs to happen quickly.
Let's stay in position. More top sporting stories on the national briefing coming your way at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The national briefing on SAfm
Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
Thank you very much, Zai. Much appreciated.
For 90 years, South Africa has changed. Governments have changed. Generations have changed. Technology has changed. But through it all, one thing has remained. The conversation. From the voices of yesterday.
This morning to me, well, it took 8 attempts, but the Big Easy finally did it. South Africa's Ernie Els finally recorded his first win.
And it's just a month and a half until the start of the World Summit in Johannesburg. Most people are aware of the summit's goals.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that she has really paid a very big price for taking up music. Because what happened is that she left her daughter, one and only daughter.
You're listening to SAfm 104 to 107, and it's time for our music documentary series, The Music Makers. What is it all about?
The voices shaping tomorrow. This August, SAfm celebrates 90 years of conversation. A nation story, our shared future. SAfm turns 90 from 1 August. SAfm. The conversation continues. The Market Brief with Ndawleng Lechela on SAfm.
Good morning, darling. As always, quite a bit on your desk, women and youth bearing the brunt of South Africa's unemployment crisis. We've been discussing that with Ndate John. And then Itatal flagging down threats from cheap tile imports. What's happening?
Good morning, Koketso. Before I get into it, I'd just like to thank Ndate John for his work and his contribution. We are here today because of people like Ndate John and their contribution. So we appreciate you. We love you. Now, getting into the market update, the overall jobless rate climbed to 33.6% in the second quarter. Of course, you mentioned there women and youth bearing the brunt of a tough labor market, starting with women. Unemployment there rising 37.5%. Now, Koketso, more than half of the 8.5 million unemployed South Africans are women. For young people, the picture even more alarming, with youth unemployment rising to 47.4%, with another 264,000 young people joining the ranks of unemployed. Now, a stark reminder that even when the economy creates jobs, it's not creating them fast enough or inclusively enough to absorb those entering the labor market. Now, the losses were widespread across key sectors, including community services, mining, agriculture, and manufacturing, pointing to a broader weakness in the economy's ability to create and sustain jobs. And zooming in on the manufacturing sector in particular, tile manufacturer Italtile warning of lower profits, just pointing to cheap imports, putting South African manufacturers under growing pressure. Its manufacturing arm, ceramic industries, that is being squeezed by cheaper imported tiles, weak demand and rising costs, with the group now expecting earnings to fall by up to 12.4%. Now, this is an issue being felt across industries. Just last week, Kathy and I were speaking about SAPI that warned that dumped toilet paper imports were becoming a growing concern. For Italtile, global oversupply is driving prices lower, eroding manufacturing margins as well. The pressure has prompted ITAC to impose provisional anti-dumping duties on imported ceramic and porcelain tiles. Now, tracking equity markets, U.S. inflation is firmly in focus today, with July's CPI due out this afternoon, and markets looking for clues on the Fed's next move. Expectations are for inflation to ease, but with oil prices climbing again, investors will be watching closely for any signs that price pressures are proving stickier than expected. Ahead of that print, Wall Street futures are pointing to a fairly subdued open after U.S. equities closed lower overnight, while Asian markets are mixed this morning, with investors also keeping a close eye on that inflation print. Closer to home, the JSE likely to take its cue from global markets, with energy prices adding another layer of uncertainty. Brent trading around $89 a barrel this hour. Then over on the currency scene, the rand on the front foot at 16.19 to the dollar, 21.87 to the pound, and 18.68 to the euro. While inflation and markets are very much about cost pressures facing the economy, there's another important side to that economic story: who's creating businesses, jobs, and opportunities. And at 8:30, Koketso will look at the contribution of women entrepreneurs to our economy and the role they can play in driving growth. Be sure to tune in an hour's time.
Stay on top of all meaningful, trending stories right here on SAfm. Leading the conversation.
Yeah, I just really want to say thank you so much to Ntaoleng for those wonderfully kind words, but also to say, you know, we all came in here at some point, and many people made my journey possible. So, you know, I start with someone like Sally Burdett. When I arrived on my first day, had no idea what I was doing, but I knew what I wanted to do, and you know, I couldn't have had a better person to guide me. And of course, also, you know, the person before me, John Matham, and I arrived here and found Tim Modise, and I haven't even begun to mention all the producers and the people behind the scenes who actually make us presenters sound way smarter than we actually are. So, Ntaoleng, thank you, but I also owe to so many people and SAfm, which gave me my start.
Always humble. And we'll get into man John Perlman on the other side of it. A reminder also that deciding to ignore the DIY instructions may only cost you a few hours, but deciding to stay with your current car insurance could be costing you thousands of rands in savings. Without insurance, for the 8-year-old, Ada saves an unbelievable 1,803 Rand a month on his 2020 Audi Q3. Switch to Outsurance. You too could be one quote away from having more money in your pocket every month. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. License and FFP. T's and C's and information online.
Reality check on the National Briefing.
It is that moment with Advocate Thandi Orlane, this reality check. And just to also, you know, appraise you, Ntate John, we've had Advocate Orlane with us the entire week. Important conversations that are being had. Of course, Advocate Orlane is the chairperson of Impala Platinum, founder of Biotona Group Holding, and president of the International Women's Forum South Africa. Advocate Orlane is myself and John Perlman. A fortunate morning, I would assume, for you as well. Good morning.
Good morning, Koketso. Lovely to join you with John. Thank you.
Good morning to you, Advocate Orlane, and a great delight to have you. We've crossed paths many times over the years.
We have indeed, John.
It is that moment where, as a country, we pause, we reflect, and is thinking seriously about the state of the country. And the conversation continues with yourself, Advocate Orlane, and we're talking about leadership and women in leadership. What are your thoughts this morning?
Thank you, Koketso. This morning, I want to touch on the issue of how leadership skills are honed and ambition is shaped. And the questions are, the leadership choices, are they entirely personal, or are women and men conditioned from childhood to imagine different futures for themselves? As you know, we all come from cultural backgrounds that have biases, whether it's inherent or it's unconscious biases. So I want us to explore how family expectations, education, care roles, and gender stereotypes influence confidence, ambition, and career choices. And I found that women fall on the lower side of the ladder as far as leadership is concerned. And this is starting from childhood. So I would like everybody to imagine how their childhood was and what influenced them to take certain paths. Also wanting to raise something that came up in the last 2 days, particularly yesterday, about why is it women do not support other women. Firstly, starting with how ambition is shaped. And I want to point out something that may be obvious, but girls and boys may be assigned different roles at home. Like the girl is expected to be able to cook, to clean, to wash, and whereas the boy is allowed maybe to do gardening, to do things like that, but normally they will be allowed to read or to go to school. Where families have limited resources, boys have historically received preference for education. But I must say that pattern is changing. And depending on each family's financial situation and level of consciousness about gender equality, as well as the fact that women continue to face strong expectations to marry, bear children, and act as primary caregivers, whereas men expected to be providers, whether they marry or they don't, but their roles are defined by where they are going, are expected to land. So invariably, men tend to prioritize their careers. Whilst they would like to get married, their expectations are that the wives will support their careers and at the same time try to build their own careers. In this regard, ambitious women may be judged as aggressive, unfeminine, or difficult, while similar behavior in men may be interpreted as confidence and leadership potential. So you can see the stereotyping that will look at women differently from men. If you are a woman, you are aggressive, you are seen as trying to do things that are not suitable for you. So men are also constrained by gender expectations, including pressure to appear certain, dominant, and emotionally strong and invulnerable. A healthier understanding of leadership should therefore allow both women and men to lead authentically. One may say this is easier said than done, and that is true. And so that takes me to the point where it said that women don't support others. I must say I've never experienced that. And I would like this not to be seen as a matter that is anecdotal, but a matter that is a real problem. This is August month. I've been speaking at women functions events. I've been reading about what women are doing. At the moment, I'm looking at a book that is celebrating women, and so that is published by the business media magazines. And I see a lot of women who are CEOs, COOs in major companies. There are stories about those women, and they are saying how they've been supported by both men and women. And I would like at this point to point out that maybe it's the environment that I've surrounded myself with. At IWFSA, which is the International Women's Forum of South Africa, we are supporting women, young women, mentorship, sponsorship, coaching, and we can point out the number of women that have climbed the ladder in the last 20 years. In fact, the IWFSA has been in existence in South Africa for 25 years. And similarly, Koketso and John, at Beltuna, we have got a foundation that mentors young women and enables them to decide on career choices. We also indicate to women that it's not an either or in terms of whether you marry or you have a career. You can have both as much as men can have both, as long as people sit down and understand and verbalize what their own expectations are in life. And I believe that the moment you verbalize, you engage with people in a way that doesn't undermine them, but solicits support, and you also give support to them, then that enables you and enables the people around you to ensure that we all rise as we lift as we rise. So it's important for me for listeners and other people as they reflect on these issues to understand that what appears to be an individual's choice is often shaped long before a vacancy is advertised at work. It starts with families, schools, and communities, how they choose people to say, we support this one, we won't. We will uplift this one or we won't. The fact that some people can be undermined at school may dent their confidence to a point that they don't see themselves as leaders. So I'm hoping that we can reflect on these issues for today and make sure that if you are in an environment where you believe women are not supporting each other, maybe you are not in the right environment.
We do appreciate your time this morning. That is the reality check with Advocate Thandi Olane, chairperson of Impala Platinum, founder of Beotona Group Holding, and president of International Women's Forum South Africa. With me is Ndate John Perlman. Things to ponder on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a little bit about the mentoring work that Beotona is undertaking, and a little bit about as well about the International Women's Forum. And that mentoring work is absolutely essential and can really be quite transformative, that somebody has a partner who's walked the road, who doesn't necessarily say, well, I know everything, but I know something and I know some stuff. And it's a conversational process that I think is going to produce yet another generation of leaders very similar to Advocate Olane.
I look forward to the conversation that we'll be having after 8 with Ndate John about various ways in which you yourself have mentored many people, wittingly and unwittingly as well. I am one of those, so we'll get to that conversation. Yes. But for now, though, Rob Byrne, whom Ndate John was saying, has also been off service to SAfm for a number of years. He's got the latest.
Long time.
He's got the latest traffic.
SAfm. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Two big standout queues around Joburg today. One is the N3 South, the crash at Galuli's interchange, taking forever to clear, coming from Modderfontein Road, passing Invalid is slow. The other is the N17 between Rondebult Road and Osborne Road as you come to Joburg and hit the roadwork section there. Midrand, in fact, Pretoria, Midrand, N1 South, not looking too bad today. Coming to Pretoria Central, straight down the middle, Paul Kruger is heavy. Capital Park going into the CBD. Durban, pretty difficult morning. Some heavy rain overnight, left some surface water and flooding, and that rain has become heavy again this morning. Everything on a go slow. The usual crash in the rain on Fields Hill. Hillcrest through to Kloof and then down the hill to Pinetown, really have backed up. There's a crash on the M4 to the M7, so coming through Jacobs Clarewood, that is heavy. The M2 from coming from Tweeny Hill into Prospecton, pretty heavy. Backlogs from Pavilion Mall into Spaghetti Junction on the N3. Backlogs heavily up towards Slunga this morning. If you're only going to the airport, traffic sitting from Queen Dundee Drive all the way through Komashu and up towards that gateway exit. And that crash on the N2 South at Sabaya still causing delays. M4 Ruthfirst Highway heavy among Blue Lagoon, both directions today. Protesting intensifying around the Nkobo area of the Eastern Cape, the R61, out to Coffin Vaba, down to Mthatha, up to Elliot, down to Dutwa. All of those routes are affected with trucks that have been used to blockade roads. Any plans to get through that Nkobo area today off the Eastern Cape should be perhaps delayed until tomorrow. Cape Town, there's some heavy traffic on the M1 inbound from Belleville all the way through to the city centre. The M3 looking quite slow as well, Constantia to Bishop's Court, and then from Newlands through Hospital Bend under a bit of pressure. And there is a crash going out of town at Krabo on the N2 coming off the Lowry's Pass into central Krabo being held up. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
At 4 minutes to 8, Koketso Sachane together with John Perlman on SAfm. Those words sounds amazing.
It does. It does. We had to wait all this time to say them.
I should have started with John Perlman and Koketso Sachane.
I'm in your house, so I think the way you did it is fine.
But protocol.
Yes,
elders first. This is how we celebrate 90 years of SAfm together with John Perlman. A number of voice notes that we need to get through, but also on the other side of 8 is where we are going to be talking
I'm looking forward to it.
Your history at SAfm, talking about you, and also allowing, of course, the SAfm listener to also be part of the conversation. Here are some of your voice notes.
Good morning, Koketso. I think one of the solutions we actually need to consider is declaring the Western Cape, in terms of gang violence, a state of emergency, specifically in the hotspots, and do what they did in Venezuela with respects to just rounding up all of those gangsters, known gangsters, associates of gangsters, and just spend their rights for a period of time. They did in Venezuela, and keep them separately and try and then build cases against them with respects to that. I think we will see a huge difference. The normal things is not working, so we have to take drastic action.
The performance and actions of the Fidel Adams gives us as voters an opportunity to look to all those potential candidates to be councillors through the eyes of a needle. This is very embarrassing. Can you call Mr. Adams an honorable member of parliament? This is a disaster. Really, this is a disaster. Lying first day before the Madlanga Commission. Can we take this man seriously? This is a joke. This is Rapsal Doze. Good morning to you and your listeners.
Thanks a lot for those voice notes. Before we get to the news with Anne Tate John, your thoughts on all things Fidel Adams and the Madlanga Commission?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really astonishing 10 minutes because that's all it was.
Yeah.
But there was something in his manner right from the very beginning that suggested that he was disrespectful of the process. You know, it was his whole bearing. He looked like he was thinking of interrupting Justice Madlanga, which I think by now everybody knows is not a good idea to generally interrupt anyone, but particularly Justice Madlanga. And Michelle Craig on Newsroom Africa put it really well when she said this was the equivalent of saying the dog ate my homework.
No, most definitely.
You know,
and you know, for me, what stood out besides what seems to be just sheer disrespect is the point that Justice Langa made, where in talking about the laptops and lack of access to the laptops for 18 months, and he asked the question, or he actually said, is this how you serving the people who elected you? Are you saying that you have not been able to do your work? For me, that's the big standout.
Yes. No, it was quite remarkable. But, you know, hopefully he will be better prepared because he's certainly going to need to be.
Yep. He'll be back next week at least before the commission. It's 8 o'clock time for latest news with Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out 30754.
In our top story, Reiger Park murder suspect to appear in court, and Kusatu raises alarm over rise in unemployment rate. Good morning. A suspect arrested in connection with the murders of 2 police officers in Reiger Park on Gauteng's East Rand is expected to appear in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. He was arrested following a multidisciplinary operation that led to the recovery of 2 R5 rifles at an informal settlement in Germiston over the weekend. According to police, the suspect is facing 2 counts of murder as well as possession of unlicensed firearms. Sachane reports.
On Friday night, the 2 officers from the anti-gang unit were ambushed and shot dead after responding to a shooting incident where 2 local women were killed. A 23-year-old alleged gangster from the area was later arrested and will make his first appearance in court today. According to police, the suspect was out on bail at the time of his arrest. He has several pending cases, including 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and possession of an unlicensed firearm. Investigations are ongoing, with police continuing to pursue all those involved. Further arrests have not been ruled out.
IDAC State Advocate Rushantha Ramsamy will return to the Matlanga Commission on Friday. Yesterday, she testified on issues involving IDAC. She told the Commission of apparent inconsistencies in evidence relating to an investigation into Police Minister Senzo Mchunu's Chief of Staff Cedric Nkabinde. The Commission heard that an unsigned draft affidavit linked to IDAC investigator Dylan Perlman appears to contradict information previously provided by former IDAC head Advocate Andrea Johnson. Ramsamy was being led in evidence by Advocate Lee Siegels Ngube.
And I recall your evidence being that you had seen this affidavit at some stage and it contradicted, although it's not signed, it contradicted Advocate Johnson's version regarding the call with Mr. Nkabinde, where Advocate Johnson told you that she had received a call from Mr. Nkabinde, but the draft affidavit of Mr. Perlman showed that Advocate Johnson was the one that called Mr. Nkabinde.
Put him on speaker, correct?
And put it on speaker.
Yes.
The Free State Department of Education has confirmed that the powers of SGBs of Welkom High and Welkom Technical High Schools were taken away and administrators appointed to work with the principals. This after parents marched to the department's district offices in Welkom, demanding that a school governing body should be appointed. Parents have alleged that the 2 schools disbanded governing bodies abruptly. Parents allege that mismanagement of school funds and victimization of the teachers is on the rise. According to the provincial spokesperson Howard Ndaba, there is no crisis in both schools following the disbandment of the SGBs.
What they are supposed to do now, if they are aggrieved with those disbandment, is to then appeal, and they know that all the processes were followed, and we expect them to follow those processes in terms of appealing, so that if there's any need, if there's any need for them to be reinstated, they must appeal to the MEC. The MEC will look at that. They must make a representation the same way they did, especially the HTS.
Labour Federation Kusatu says the country's unemployment rate is alarming. The Labour Federation was responding to the latest quarterly labour force survey, which reveals the official unemployment rate had increased to 33.6%. The data indicates an additional 345,000 persons are unemployed. Kusatu's parliamentary coordinator Matthew Parks says these figures are more than just stats.
It's a crisis, and I think for far too long we've allowed ourselves to normalize it. We have a crisis of 43% unemployment. It's been increasing continuously for much of the past decade, and in fact it's doubled over the last 20 years. For young people, it's even worse. It's over 62%. So you have 12 people who just can't find work. About 5 of them are young people. This creates a real crisis for them. We're in danger of creating a permanent class of unemployed persons.
Recapping the top story, a suspect arrested in connection with the murders of 2 police officers in Reiger Park, Gauteng's East Rand, is expected to appear in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
We've all had the anxiety of wondering if our insurer will pay out our claim, but with Outsurance, you've got peace of mind. The Ombudsman, an independent body that rules on complaints, confirmed in their 2025 annual report that Outsurance had the lowest overturned ratio of complaints received. So switch to Outsurance, the insurer that consistently delivers on what you need insurance to do. Call 086 00 60 000 or visit outsurance.co.za today. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SAfm Sports headlines, soccer, Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. They return to Betway Premiership action tonight. And in rugby, Nonu Solo Haka earns the All Blacks respect despite the Sharks' heavy defeat. We'll have the details at around 8:30.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Joburg not having the worst run of traffic this Wednesday morning. There is, however, a backlog on the R21 coming towards the airport between Bulbsfontein and Benoni. Exits looks like something's happened as you come out of Tembisa into that Kempton Park area. N17 queuing to Osborne Road. Roadworks there on your way to Joburg. And Pretoria East all banged up on Solomon Mishlangu and Garsfontein as motorists get caught up in some construction work through that part of Pretoria East. Durban pretty slow this morning on account of the wet weather conditions. Everything going slow. There is surface water and flooding and surface spray to contend with. Do give yourself plenty of time to get through. Heavy pressure, Hillcrest down to Pinetown. That's a crash on Fields Hill. Crash on the M4 Southern Freeway inbound just after the M7 as you come up to Congella. There is some flooding on that route as well. Very heavy from Jacobs Clarewood area this morning. The N2 South Umgetta Road Spaghetti Junction. N3 inbound Pavilion to Spaghetti Junction slow. N2 queuing up Queen Nundy Drive through to Gateway, and then the M4 both ways to Virginia Airport under a bit of pressure as well. Most of your routes in and through Ngobo in the Eastern Cape are blocked off, including the main R61, but routes to and from Elliot, Dua, Mtata, Coffin Barber all being blocked off. That intensification, as we've been saying, a protest that started yesterday and continues today in that Ngobo area. Cape Town, N1, multiple breakdowns between Belleville and Kubo. Get a change, that's a heavy run through. M5, backed up from Ottery through towards the N2, and plenty of traffic on the N3 between Constantia and Hospital Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. The National Briefing on SAfm. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
At 8 minutes past 9, it is the national briefing on SAfm. Koketso Sachane and John Perlman in for Kathy Mutlatlana. I mean, imagine that. Having two people standing in for you, Ntate John.
Yes, fantastic.
Really appreciate the presence of Ntate John Perlman with us this morning as SAfm celebrates 90th birthday celebrations, and as part of us looking back on the history of SAfm, we also honor those legends that have formed part and parcel of the institution that is SAfm, and one of those is, of course, Ntate John Perlman, who is a veteran journalist, broadcaster, was anchor on SAfm's major morning news program AM Live, and is popular After 8 debate. And during his 9 years you spent at SAfm.
9 years of the alarm clock going off very, very early, but boy, was it a special time.
And you were reminded of having to wake up early, as I was as well this morning. You managed, though. I saw you walk in here at 6:30. Very professional of you.
Yeah, well, you got to be there on time. You got to warm your voice up, hum in the car, make sure that you're ready to go. But yeah, day after day, I admire the breakfast presenters, having done it myself.
And for this hour, a large majority of this hour will be in conversation with Ntate John about himself, about the work that he does, about his history at SAfm. So feel free to join the conversation, 086-000-2032, or send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614-104-107. We are also streaming live across all SAfm platforms. There's YouTube, there is Facebook, and X as well. And I know, Ntate John, where you are now, streaming is normal, but I'm not used to cameras pointing at me while doing radio.
No, and part of the problem, you know, when I drove here, I had a big, nice, thick woodland hat, but with these headphones, you can't keep it on, you know. And also, you know, appearances start counting. I have to remind myself of that from time to time. The other tricky thing, by the way, is sometimes you're doing an interview and you're a little frustrated because we're often chasing the clock, or you're not getting the answer you want, and you have to remember not to
somebody's
pull.
watching.
Yeah, gotta control the facial muscles. Keep it nice.
Do join the conversation 086-000-2032. It is a national briefing on SAfm, 12 minutes past 8.
As a business owner, you're always looking for ways to save money. But have you looked at saving on your business insurance premium? With Outsurance Business Insurance, you could save big, like Bosmansdam High School.
We were with our previous insurance for 10 years plus before switching to Outsurance Business Insurance.
We are saving 3,705 Rand per month.
It was so quick and easy, we should have switched sooner.
Ready to switch and save? Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
At Koketso Sachane and at SAfm Radio on Twitter.
A reminder that SABC Plus has reached an exciting milestone, surpassing 3 million registered users and cementing its position as one of South Africa's fastest growing streaming platforms, bringing together live TV, radio, sport, news, video on demand, and catch-up content. SABC Plus continues to connect millions of South Africans with the content they love anytime, anywhere. This achievement reflects the platform's growing popularity and the SABC's ongoing commitment to delivering world-class digital experiences. Download the SABC Plus app today on iOS or Google Play Store, or visit sabcplus.com to join the millions already streaming.
The National Briefing on SAfm, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
104-107 nationwide. With me is Ntate John Perlman. Oh, what a journey it has been as we celebrate this man. Let's just start here. I need to say that I need to start by thanking you. Right? Okay. Let's start there. There are a number of people, and you've mentioned some of them, but it would be wrong of me to not acknowledge those whom have, in a lot of ways, contributed to the broadcaster that I am today. There is yourself, listening to SAfm, you know, a number of years ago. There is, you mentioned John Matham. I got to work with him closely in Cape Town. Ntate Tim Widies has always been that person that I have memories in my family where we would, our TV there was a robbery at my house. Okay. I shouldn't say this. I don't know if my parents are listening. But many years ago, there was a robbery, and we had no TV. And as a family, we gathered around the radio during supper time. And that's when we were listening to Metro FM Talk with, there was Lawrence Dude, there was Ntate Tim Widies, and then, of course, Ntate Tim Widies on SAfm as well. Ntate Caesar Malabatsi, who's like a father to me. You know, and then there are those whom we've lost that I hold dear to my heart. I was fortunate enough to read the news on Rowena Bird's show back in Cape Town. And then she became like a big sister.
Yes.
Kolane Gwala became a big brother. And we've been playing these promos, acknowledging these greats. And I always find myself having moments of sadness in remembering them, but also celebrating. So I'm saying all of that to say, as a start, thank you.
No, well,
thank you.
Thank you for that. And, you know, again, thanks for having me here at SAfm. I think that, you know, going just beyond my own participation, but this whole idea of reflecting on your history and honoring the people who shaped it with a view to 90 more years, you know, of doing this is just a brilliant idea.
Where did it all begin for you? Because SAfm is but part and parcel of the journey you've walked. Where did it all begin for John Perlman?
So, some people might say it began with my early school reports, which said, I'll summarize, John appears to be reasonably intelligent, but he talks too much. And every single school report, and there were 4 terms, so literally 4 times a year, those words, John talks too much, were there for my parents to consider and reprimand me, to put it mildly at times. I was a print journalist. Before that, I was involved in the world of research. I realized that I'm not academic. I'm not going to produce long documents. I got into journalism. But yeah, radio has an incredible appeal. And once I got the opportunity to host the morning show to SAfm, there was absolutely no looking back. I loved the immediacy. I loved the opportunity to deal with news literally as it happens. And I don't think any other medium allows you to do that, except, of course, now with social media.
Wait. Was SAfm your first radio gig?
So I used to host sport, do some sports work at 702 on a freelance basis. Worked as a stand-in on the evening show, which was, I think then called Book at 9.
Yes.
But yeah, I wasn't getting any particular traction with that as any sort of full-time career. You know, continued with newspapers, stayed in print, and then one day I just took whatever I had, put together a tape, sent it off to Tony Lancaster, who was a senior person at SAfm at the time, and there was a gap opening up. John Matham was going to Cape Talk, and they said, "Want to do the morning show?" And I said, 6 in the morning, every day, 5 days a week. And interestingly enough, as I was weighing up this decision, I went to see John Matham and said, you know, can I get some advice? He was busy packing ahead for Cape Town. And as people can imagine, John is very direct and very precise. John said, you got to do it.
Yeah.
And then I sort of, you know, twiddled my thumbs and asked a few more questions. He said, you have to do it. These opportunities don't come around. Often when they come, grab them. So, yeah, John got me on my way.
We thank John for John, and there's a voice note that has a special request, and we are partly addressing it, but this is for you, Ndate John.
Morning, Koketso. Morning, John. This is Ted Ngobela here from Durban. To some of us who don't know him, I was hoping that perhaps you will dive deeper into his profile to ask questions when, of course, he joined the nation, what it was like as SAfm back then, and what he's currently working on, and what advice you would give to the young and unsparing broadcasters who, but of course, interested to join the station in the future. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much for that. And I mean, we have started in answering that question, but maybe to go to part of what is asked, what SAfm was like at the time, because it was not only about the institution, but also what was happening in the country at that time.
Yeah. It's an interesting question because I think SAfm has changed quite a bit. I started doing AM Live, partnered with Sally Burdett and then with other co-presenters through the years. For quite a bit of that time, it was I think, very formal. And of course, it still has a certain formality as the public broadcaster. But the show only ran from 6 till 8:30. And then Tim Modise stepped in, and Will Bernard was doing that before him, and that's where there was much more audience interaction. When I started doing SAfm, we kind of spoke to the audience and the listeners, but they didn't speak back all that much. So I must admit, once we introduced the After 8 debate, I felt we took a really nice quantum leap, and certainly my own enjoyment and sense of being in a national conversation, as opposed to some degree, speaking to people obviously through yourself and your guests and your co-presenter. I think that was a very important step. Tim was doing it already well before him, with doing Talk at Will. But I think the After 8 debate was a big step.
The After 8 debate for me, it was almost as if the country has been lit on fire, in a sense that there is a platform on which we can deal with what was happening in the country at that time, but also being on a national basis as well was major.
Very important. Yeah, I think that's a very important point. Obviously, there was talk radio on other platforms. 702 is obviously comes to mind, and there was Cape Talk, which you have your own history with. But you're right, that national conversation, and I said it earlier, just to repeat it perhaps for people who hadn't joined you yet, Koketso, that the SABC's national reach is an incredibly important thing, and it's both geographical, but it's also linguistic. The fact that there's a conversation going on in every single official language. And the one thing I used to love when there were elections, and we'd all go in our many vans and vehicles, because the SABC presence there was so vast, and there'd be a kind of a roll call of all the radio stations, whoever was in charge at the time, and literally we were there present from every corner of the country.
That is something that I really want to do. I love road trips, and I want to speak to your point of the reach, and in any part of the country, any road, if there's one radio station that's going to keep you company consistently because of the reach, it's SAfm. And one of the things that has excited me about being on SAfm is you take a call and you go from the Eastern Cape to Limpopo and I would want to do exactly what you're talking about, which is to take it to the road, to go into different areas and actually have conversations. The beauty, and maybe one could argue as well, Dr. John, the responsibility of this platform includes doing that.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. I can't remember the person's name, but somebody shared with me that an English cricket journalist had come out to South Africa to cover an England tour. They were playing a series of test matches. And he, in the course, I think he was on the BBC, described how he had driven down from Joburg to Cape Town because he wanted to see the country. And he had SAfm the whole way, exactly as you described, and spoke very well of the work we were doing.
With me and with us is Ndate John Perlman, of course, veteran broadcaster and journalist, a family member, the Malume that left, and then now he has returned, and we are talking about, of course, the history of SAfm and John Perlman's history with SAfm, as well as the celebration of 90 years of SAfm. 086-000-2032. Do give us a call. Maybe you have memories of the After 8 debate. Going back to that era, and Tata John, what are some of the stories and moments where have stayed with you, particularly when it comes to, the listener interaction or a particular topic that really ignited the nation and became dominant in terms of the conversations that you were having on SAfm at the time?
I get asked that question so often about journalists, like your most memorable interview. What was the issue that was a particularly burning one, and so on. And to be honest, often my most memorable interview is the last one, because you are constantly what's the word? I was going to say relitigating, but it's not relitigating. Radio is this constant conversation, and if you think Kathy, for example, in the morning she finishes something, Jan picks it up from 9 to 12, and that's true of every other radio station. If I look back to the early 2000s, South Africa's relationship with Zimbabwe was a very hot conversation, and what were our responsibilities in ensuring that country's democratic outcomes. The HIV/AIDS position adopted by under the presidency of Thabo Mbeki, and the very bitter divisions around that is something that certainly comes to mind for me, and that was an issue of great prominence. I think the move between the Mandela presidency in Mbeki era, where I think former President Mbeki sharpened very much the conversation around inequality and the need to move from, yes, we are a rainbow nation, we won the Rugby World Cup, we had a first election, but there's some tough conversations required. Those are just three that come to mind, of many.
And we do have a number of people who would like to speak to you before we get to the news or the latest news headlines at 8:30. Let's start off with, is it Zoe in Qonce? Good evening, Zoe. Good morning. H.
Good morning, Mr. Evening.
Old habits. Good morning, Zoe.
Yes, how are you, John?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm surviving, man. It's a chilly good weather, cold here in Kingston, yeah.
Yeah, it's freezing down in the Eastern Cape, I hear.
Do you know a person by the name of Sandy Prosalindis?
No, I think you're going to have to remind me.
No, I met her in Cape Town. I was talking about you and Sally Bedet. No, she said, she was angry that Sally took you away.
Sally took me away.
How I appreciated you and Sally, then kind of things. Oh, she said, don't talk about it. Sally took away John. Okay. Now, I've always loved listening to you, John, and then you've got sharp intellect, although I hear you say you doubted your intellectuality. And have you noticed that in South African radio, there's a lot of Johns here? That's what I noticed.
That's true.
In English radio.
Yeah.
John Robbie, in all of it, John Robbie, John Becks, John Orr, John Perlman, John Mather.
John Kwelani.
Yeah. All that.
JQ.
So,
I've got memories of JQ.
I'm happy to hear you on your voice again on radio.
Thank you, Zoe. Appreciate it. Tando in the Eastern Cape. Tando, good evening. Good morning. I must stop that. It's a reflex. Tando, hi.
Hi, John. I'm reminded about a conversation we had about our fly halves in the Springboks. I said back then, Peyton Paulson could play fly half. And I equated it with the Americans who didn't want African Americans to play quarterback.
Yes,
I don't know if you recall that conversation. So with so many fly halves, Ngome Zulu, Libok, and the other young guys, and I'm actually looking at it. So it's fascinating. It's so inspirational even. So I thought I would just try to jumpstart your memory.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't remember the conversation. Did I disagree and say he should be on the wing? What was my view? Can you recall?
No. You agreed with me. That's
okay.
Actually, the issue. Yeah, you agreed with me. So I was feeling strongly that Paulson could have made an amazing flyer.
Yeah, I think.
But anyway,
they would have needed a mindset change in what kind of rugby we wanted to play. But your reflection on the crop of young black fly halves, and there are many more coming through. If you look at the under-20s, very, very exciting times.
Thank you very much.
It really is.
Thank you, Tando. Much appreciated. I always wondered whatever happened to. For me, it felt like Pat Lambie's career just kind of ended abruptly.
To be honest, I don't really know enough about it. I mean, whenever I watched him play, he looked like an exciting player, but not a topic about which I have any great insight.
Well, we definitely are celebrating a crop of fly halves. I mean, Sasha Ngome Feinberg being one of them. Not best of games just the other day, but coming out of injury, hopefully we'll get back to what we know. It is 8:30, and while we're talking a bit about rugby, we need to talk about John Perlman's love for football and Beanfields and why. That is a question that I have.
Look forward to it.
It's 8:30, time for the latest news headlines with Musa.
Good morning. Thanks, Koketso. In the headlines, the Benchmarks Foundation has raised concerns over the proposed General Mining Laws Amendment Bill. saying it fails to target the kingpins behind illegal mining syndicates. A suspect arrested in connection with the murders of 2 police officers in Reiger Park on Gauteng's East Rand is expected to appear in the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. And Labour Federation Koketso says, although the increase in the unemployment rate is not unexpected, government should not normalise the crisis. I have details on these and other stories at 9.
Scholar transport drivers. Every winter morning, our children depend on you to get them to school safely. But overloaded vehicles and rushing against time puts lives at risk. Remember, our children are not cargo. Overload reduces your ability to stop on wet or icy roads. Drive responsibly. Arrive safely. Protect every child, every trip. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Running a small business, every rand counts. Thanks to My Way Business Insurance, I save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month for my bakkies and tools of trade. Now, I get to save some extra cash for my business, focus on giving my clients world-class service.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your bakkies and tools of trade. Real businesses, real savings. That's on 0860 646464 for a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurance and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It's not about right across the Gauteng province now. I'm not sure whether it's the cold that's keeping people away and at home or what it is, but very light, particularly the N1 coming out of Pretoria down through Midrand. Very unusual for a midweek Wednesday. There is a bit of a backlog. N12 coming into Galuli's interchange, and the Mike 1 from Buccleuch down to Mulberry Drive, looking a bit sluggish as well. Durban, a lot of congestion this morning, largely because of the wet weather conditions. It's starting to ease, but roads are wet and slippery. N2 North is heavy to Gateway. The M4 Route Highway really heavy between Blue Lagoon and Mhlanga around the Lucia Virginia Airport side. The N3 driving in from Pavilion towards Spaghetti Junction is quite slow go as well. A reminder about the protesting in Ngobo today. It's unlikely to be able to get through, particularly along the R61 and other routes from Ngobo down to Mthatha, out to Elliot, down to Dutra, and through Offenbarber. Pretty much a blockage of all your major routes through that part of the Eastern Cape. Maybe have a look at travelling that way tomorrow. Cape Town, plenty of traffic on the M1 inbound. Cliff down to the city centre. N7 North from Goodwood has eased nicely towards Bosmansdam Road. If you've got to do that run, it can often be busy, but this morning it's okay. And a lot of traffic still coming in on the M3, Constantia to Hospital Bend. And if you use Baden-Powell at this hour, you're going to encounter some big delays. Baden-Powell heading into Strandfontein Road, direction Muidsburg. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Last update for this morning, Zai. Pirates, Chiefs, going back to action this evening.
That's right. Koketso points are up for grabs, and so are a few bragging rights tonight. It's the Betway Premiership action. The defending champions Orlando Pirates head to Durban looking to make it 2 wins from 2 when they face AmaZulu, and Pirates have started the season strongly despite the departure of Relebohile Mofokeng, while Usutu are desperate to bounce back after their dramatic MTN8 exit. Kick-off 7:30. Another 7:30 kickoff where Kaizer Chiefs will face a reunion with familiar faces tonight as former assistant coach Cedric Hayes returns to FNB Stadium, this time in charge of Sakuna United. Both teams open their Betway Premiership campaigns with victory, but Amakhosi are looking to bounce back after their MTN8 exit. Chiefs also have an eye on a blockbuster clash with Mamelodi Sundowns this weekend, making tonight's encounter even more significant. The other 2 matches see Durban City host Golden Arrows, while Milford will take on Siwelele. Now, Chippa United, they remain unbeaten after a 1-1 draw with Richards Bay in their Premiership match at Dobsonville Stadium last night. But with both the Nelson Mandela Bay and Buffalo City Stadium pitches still under construction, the Chili Boys continue to play their home matches away from the Eastern Cape. Coach Brandon Truder says that's no excuse, insisting his side still has to make the home advantage count.
Based on the balance of play and how we started second half, I think the draw is a fair result. Richards Bay that have their phases and they managed to score a goal. So yeah. But for us, during the early stages of the league, you want to pick up points. whether it's a home or away. Like you said, now it's basically a neutral venue. So yeah, at the point, yeah, it's also away. But no, I think we dropped 2 points tonight based on performance. Yeah.
On to rugby, the All Blacks, they ran in 8 tries, hammering the Sharks 54-0 in Durban last night. But the scoreline belonged to 44-year-old Ma Nonu, the former New Zealand great, now wearing Sharks colours, stood alone after the haka and responded with a powerful traditional Maori challenge of his own. It was quite an emotional moment and getting respect as well from the All Blacks. And finally, 10 action, the second seeded Elena Rybakina battled back from a set down to beat former world number 1 Naomi Osaka 4-6, 7-6, 6-4 to reach the semi-finals of the Canadian Open in Toronto. Rybakina will now face Coco Gauff for a place in the final. That's your sport on the National Briefing. I'm Zaika. A volley back on 12:30. John Hediker will bring you more sport.
SAfm values your views. Be an active citizen.
Thank you very much, Zai. We all get insurance for the moment something goes wrong. And when it does, you need the peace of mind of knowing your claim will be handled fairly. Outsurance keeps outperforming. The Ombudsman, an independent body that rules on complaints, confirmed in their 2025 annual report that Outsurance had the lowest overturned ratio of complaints received. Why would you want to be insured with anyone else? Get a quote, switch today, call 086 0060 000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's and information online.
This FNB Market Brief is brought to you by FNB Business, empowering South African entrepreneurs with the relevant insights they need to grow and succeed every day. The National Briefing on SAfm, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
Women's Month provides an opportunity to celebrate the contribution women entrepreneurs make to economic growth, job creation, and community development across South Africa. While more women are starting businesses than ever before, many continue to face barriers when it comes to scaling their enterprises, accessing new markets, securing funding, and building sustainable business. We use this opportunity now to look at how enterprise and supply development programs can help address some of these challenges by providing access to mentorship, business development support, market opportunities, networks, and skills development. To tell us more on this, we're joined by Palesa Moeletsi, SME Business Development Support Manager at FNB. Palesa, welcome to SAfm. I'm here with Ndade John Perlman. Good morning.
Good morning, Koketso. It's good to be here as well.
Now, Women's Month gives us an opportunity, Palesa, to celebrate women entrepreneurs and their contribution to the economy. From your experience, what role are women-owned businesses playing in driving growth and job creation in the country?
Sure. As cliche as my answer is going to sound, but I think within the work that I do and in my experience, I have come to realize that women are multipliers. I mean, I see it every day that when you create an opportunity for one woman, she will create opportunities for others, either through creating employment, skills transfer, or simply just supporting another business. So in today's world, we see women not only building businesses that support their families or their livelihoods, but they multiply economic participation in the communities that they are staying in. And I think that is just the power that women hold and are contributing to the growth of the economy.
So, Palesa, on the one hand, there are barriers holding women-owned businesses back, but on the other, you at FNB are trying to do things to actually help them. What do you think are most important areas of support that they need?
So I think let's go back to the barriers to just say there are general systematic barriers that are affecting all SMEs, like challenges like access to funding, networks, and the general cost of doing business, right? And then when you look at women enterprises, you then need to add societal and economic barriers like access to collateral, access to network,
right,
or simple things like being taken seriously in traditionally male-dominated industries. So I think in my experience, understanding these programs then gives us an opportunity to be able to build programs that are contextual to the challenges that women are facing, because we cannot apply a one-size-fits-all lens to the problems that the women are facing.
Can you share with us, Palesa, some examples of how mentorship and market access, business networks, and also skill development, how they've helped women-owned businesses move from survival to growth?
So I think our philosophy at FNB is simple, right? To say there are three things that it takes to grow a business. You need to empower them with the right skills. You need to give them the right type of funding at the right time or at their business stage cycle. And then you need to give them access to markets, because without customers, then there is no business, right? But I think speaking to skills like mentorship, running a business is incredibly personal. For women in particular, you need to be navigating family responsibilities, societal expectations, and you still need to compete. So I think it's important to invest in the jockey as it is to invest in the business. So skills such as personal coaching for the entrepreneurs to enable them to able to think beyond their circumstances has been able to help us move businesses forward so they can contribute to the economy.
We're in conversation with Palesa Mwelezi, who is the SME Business Development Support Manager at FNB.
So it's clear from what you're saying, Palesa, FNB is ready to assist. You've got ideas, you've got programs, but I would imagine the entrepreneurs, the women themselves, also need to be ready to make best of opportunities that come their way. What kind of practical steps, I'm sure a lot of women are listening, either starting businesses or they've been running them for a while, thinking, okay, I'd like to take advantage, but you would like them to be ready, I would have thought.
Yeah, so I think my advice in that regard is very simple. I think as a woman, you need to understand the business that you are running before you chase opportunity. Because if you look at the market today, there are many development opportunities, and you often hear entrepreneurs say, but that program wasn't useful for where I was because it was not the right opportunity. So some of the practical steps that you can take for yourself is stepping back, asking yourselves questions like, what do I need? What are gaps that I'm facing in my business? And once you understand these gaps, you can then find the right partner, the right opportunity to solve for that particular gap, right? And I've already affirmed previously to say, also from a developmental perspective, we need to be building contextual solutions by understanding these gaps and the challenges that SMEs are facing.
Just in conclusion, and I appreciate how you've painted this the picture of there is the challenges that women have faced, but also progress that has been made, the opportunities that do exist. Palesa, looking ahead, what more still needs to be done to see an even greater participation of women-owned businesses in the economy, and in turn also having an impact on job creation?
I think there's a great move towards ecosystem collaboration, because I think the different corporates that give different government institutions and even educational institutions are moving towards the development of entrepreneurship in different spheres. But I think if we can collaborate more in bringing our resources together, we can then have a greater impact onto the economy. And if we build contextual programs that address the gaps, especially for women with the challenges that they are facing, and building from an understanding that not everybody is starting from the same place, therefore you need to have different interventions that answer the different stages of business, I think we can get to a better place.
We do appreciate you this morning. Palesa Mwelezi is SME Business Development Support Manager at FNB. It is the national briefing on SAfm, Koketso Sachane and John Perlman. It's 9:15.
FNB Business is proud to partner with SAfm's The National Briefing. We stand shoulder to shoulder with South African entrepreneurs and businesses because we know building a business is a 24/7 commitment. Whether you're managing cash flow, planning for growth, or navigating challenges, we deliver the sharp insights and practical solutions you need to move forward with confidence. From smart funding options to expert business advice, FNB Business is right here with you. Visit fnb.co.za/business. FNB. Help changes everything. Call Koketso right now. 011-714-2006.
And call John on 086-000-2032. John Perlman is with us still, a few minutes left of the national briefing for this morning. And the remainder of the time, I would like to dedicate to you to engage. And John, give us a call and also send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614-104-107. Greenfields. Dreamfields.
Yes.
I remember I mentioned that, and I don't know if I said it on air, but we haven't discussed off air, that at some point I was standing in for you at another radio station, which I found it to be quite an honor. And those moments when I did, you would be out of town because you're doing work with Dream. Tell us about Dreamfields. Firstly, your love for football. Where does that come from?
Yeah, my love of football was made up of many things. I think at its bedrock was playing. I mean, I just absolutely loved every spare minute I could get. I would either be kicking a ball against a wall or looking for somebody to play a game of football of. The second part of it was at an early age going to stadiums and just being absolutely carried away by the feeling. Long before you arrive at the ground, you can feel the people arriving at the ground with you. I mean, in those days, people didn't wear team colors. You couldn't buy replica shirts, but you could see from the conversation, from the buzz, you're getting closer. So I think there were those things. And then, you know, my first involvement at the SABC was not radio, but was being a football commentator on television. So through the late 70s, as a teenager, I started going to Orlando Stadium to go and watch Chiefs, Pirates, Swallows, watch games at Wits, teams like Witbank, Black Ace. And then I had the great opportunity to be part of the commentary team going all over the country covering football. So my love of the game came from all those different elements. Dreamfields was a response to the World Cup coming to South Africa. And I felt that I didn't want to just be a journalist during that time, and I didn't just want to be a fan. I wanted to see if I could make some contribution to spreading the incredible opportunity of a football World Cup in your country to township and rural kids. And yeah, thankfully with myself and the rest of the team, we've been doing it nearly 19 years.
For people who are possibly hearing of Dreamfields for the first time, what exactly do you do?
So Dreamfields, what we're doing now is not what we did at the beginning, but I'll spare you the history and tell you what we do right now. So basically, Dreamfields is a sustainable weekly schools football program for township and rural kids. We've got about 81,000 kids around the country playing football and netball, and we also do some work in athletics as well. What we do is we set up within schools what we call dream leagues. A dream league is five-a-side football, mini netball, and it's available to any kid who wants to play. We provide them with soccer balls, we provide them with little goal posts and netball poles. We hire unemployed young people to act as community coaches. We've got one for every school. We run coaching courses. We support inter-school competition. 13 of our schools made it to national netball finals.
Wow.
So we support them. We cover their costs. And from our first football program, a young boy called Tapelo Maseko ended up scoring the winning goal for us against South Korea. So if you plant some seeds, but most importantly, you work with the village, because many other people contributed to Tapelo's success, then you get results. So in a nutshell, a large nutshell, that's what we do.
Tapelo Maseko is a product of Dreamfields.
Tapelo Maseko is the product of a football village, of which we are a very proud member.
What you're doing there.
Because he comes
Yeah.
from a primary school in Sibokeng called Sitla Butcher. Fantastic teachers, visionary principal. That's where we piloted our ideas for Dream Leagues in 2015. He was one of 147 learners who signed up to play. And then he played for a Vaal amateur club called Juventus, and his coach there saw his potential, grew his skills. Supersport, a football academy, took him on, and then, of course, Sundowns played their part, and we were, through him and all those other players, into the knockout rounds.
The other day, I had a conversation with there's a young man called Wamkelwe Khatebe, who runs the Excel Youth Academy out in Ladysmith. And he's an alumni of the Northwest University, doing incredible work back home. And he was in studio with Mark Ponyani, who is working alongside him. A question that I'm not sure if I got to ask in Dr. Marks, but I'd like to ask you is, why do you care? And it's not a given, Dr. John, that you will do this. And you have been doing this as long as you have. You could easily be happy to do radio, go home, relax.
Yes.
Why do you care?
So, I mean, I don't want to say that the question is the wrong one. It's not. I do care, and but it's incredible to see what difference you make. And one of the things I feel very passionately about is it's young people's right. It is a right to have safe, sustainable, well-resourced sport in schools. It's not an extra. It's not a privilege. If you go to Denmark, for example, it's not a privilege. It is part of school life and life growing up. So there's that. But I must say this, Koketso, and I'm not trying to be, humble in any kind of false way. This has been a gift to myself as well. Because it means every single day of every single year, it is possible to get up and say, wow, in the midst of all the things that are difficult and hard to get your head around in our country, we can do something that's simple, practical, and positive. So yes, it's for 80,000 kids around the country every year, but yeah, it's for me too. It keeps me like therapy. It keeps me sane. Exactly. Yeah. You've nailed it. You've nailed it.
7 minutes before we wrap up the national briefing for this morning, we've got traffic and a number of your voice notes for Ntate John.
SAfm, guiding you through rush hour traffic.
It's not a bad run across Gauteng. We've been telling you that for about the last hour. Volume's well down from midweek Wednesday. Perhaps it's the cold weather snap that's keeping a lot of motorists maybe at home looking for warmth rather than out on the roads. Congestion around the Crown, the Mike 1 through the Crown up to around Smith Street, the M2 coming through from Joe Slow, though that Mike 1 reasonably busy. Durban's been struggling with traffic issues this morning, largely on account of the weather. There's also now a crash on the M4 Glen Ashley. If you're heading north from Blue Lagoon or south from Umhlanga along the Route First Highway, that's heavy. Another crash going out of Durban on the 3 at Paradise Valley, so backlogs there from Pavilion Mall side. Ashburton, Peter Maritzburg section, always worth checking. Looks okay today. Cape Town, Baden-Powell Drive, you're going to be asked to queue up into the Strandfontein Junction. That's a problem if you're on your way to Muizenberg. Crash on the N2 inbound at the ramp to Jansmuts Drive, so delays coming passing Langa. There's another crashing on the N2 outbound around the M5, so watch for some delays there. And the highway's reasonably busy in Cape Town. The M1 from Plattercliff Road into the city centre. M3 from the top of Wynberg Hill through the Hospital Bend. Quite slow going as well. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
You can become a victim of a legal problem. Wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rate apply.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good Morning, SAfm family. I just want to also just attest, it's anonymous here, that, I started listening to SAfm back in the early 2000s, and people like John Perlman, Tim Modise, and many others, the guests they brought to the show over the years, the information they imparted with us has really changed my life, certainly. And I have become a different person purely because of the information over the years through people like John Palmer and Timothy. So all of the best, Palmer. Keep it up. Thanks. Bye.
Good morning, Koketso, and your guest there, Mr. John Perlman. What I remember about John, I remember the time when he was interviewed the late SAFA president, Levi Oliphant. Then he asked this question, where the mind goes, Mr. Oliphant? Then Mr. Oliphant said, I don't know.
Good morning, Koketso. Yeah, definitely agree with you. Like, whenever I hit the road, everywhere I go, SAfm, I could hear, I remember one time I was in Lesotho, I was in Maseru, but I could hear SAfm on my radio.
Thank you very much for
Good morning,
those.
SAfm. I just wanted to place on record, while I'm hearing John Perlman's voice once again, John Perlman was the reason I became a loyal listener and a fan of SAfm. I loved his talk shows in the mornings, and I listened virtually daily to his questions, his probing, and his comments and additional information, and I really enjoyed it. And ever since, as I said, I've been a fan of the show. I was disappointed when he left, but I'm so happy with the likes of Bongi, Kuala. And again, I was disappointed, and now with JJ there, happy once again. So, yeah, thanks SAfm for the good talk show that we have from 9 to 12. I really enjoy that, and I am a fan. Thanks.
Thank you very much for those voice notes. Rafs Mayet says, many moons, Mr. Perlman, from the Weekly Mail to the World. Photographer Rafs Mayet.
Yeah, no, I remember Rafiq really well. And those days were, turbulent, violent, scary, inspiring through the late 80s into the 90s. And Rafs was part of a group of incredibly talented but also very, very brave photographers who went out and took the photographs without which we could never have done newspapers.
We are almost out of time, and a part of me wonders, Ndate John, if to go back to your period at SAfm and where SAfm is now, what are your, with the limited time, your reflections on where the station is right now?
Yeah, I think radio, I'm going to comment more broadly on radio.
Okay.
I think radio is at the moment in a really, really good place. I think there's a rich mix of stations. I think we are challenged, and we're meeting the challenge by social media, podcasts, and all the other alternatives. But what I think is one of the most exciting things is the level of talent in radio, and I would extend that to TV as well. So you've got people like Kathy who do the show, Kathy Mutlatlana, incredibly versatile. Think of people like Yanda Nyati and the work he does on TV. Often I listen to what they're doing, and I think I must do that because it's a constant process of learning. Clement Manyatela on the station where I am now at 7, just exceptional talent. And every station I jump to, every TV channel I go on, I think the broadcast media, broadly and radio in particular, is in a really, really healthy space. And we need every muscle memory we have, because the times are only going to get more challenging.
Another John, we appreciate you.
Thank you
As
so
I said,
much.
Thank you very much for your role in my career as somebody that has inspired. And thank you for giving us of your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you to SAfm all those years back, launching me on a career of which I've enjoyed quite every minute, but most of them.
John Perlman, ladies and gentlemen, it's 9 o'clock, time for the latest news. Good morning.
In our top stories, calls for tougher action against